Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer, the 40K podcast, where we've been going on a Chaos God series, and today we're talking about Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure itself. Welcome to the show, Christian. How's it going?
Hey, I'm excited to explore everyone's deepest, darkest fetishes in this spicy episode.
Your chat name puts the Slan and Slaanesh, so I don't know what that exactly means, but I don't like it, and stay away from my children.
And your
also
frog.
got and my frogs. We also got Court. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Mark, you asked, so are you a big Slaanesh fan? I was like, I'd fall for sure. Yeah, if I was going to be corrupted by a chaos god, it would most certainly be Slaanesh. And maybe not for the reasons that you think. But
okay.
I'm excited. I don't know. I can think of a lot of reasons.
There's probably a few. Yeah. There's probably a few.
I'm excited for his realms where it's like the 6 levels of temptation and see which one we actually all kind of fall to, how far into Slaanesh's realm we actually make it. Yeah, like you said, Court, I don't think we're going to last very long. We're probably going to bust a nut or two, and along the way, it's going to be a great time. Yeah, so before we get into this episode about Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, a little housekeeping. Join the Discord. It's a lot of fun in there. We have stuff happening all the time. Man, people have been approaching me about doing another like Necromunity type event where you guys build a whole setting over the course of a year, and then you play RPGs and then do a bunch of interesting stuff. But the main thing is just working together and building kind of. Last time they built a planet, but maybe this time you build a system. But yeah, join the Discord. Lots of fun things happening. And, I get spammed with enough messages that I'll eventually be convinced to do that. So hit me up.
I like it. And guys, join the Patreon. Join the Imperial Tithe. Please support the show if you like what we do here. All it costs you is $2.50 a month. That's it. And that will get you ad-free versions of all the episodes. You don't like ads? I fucking hate ads, to be honest. It's fucking horrible. Every celebrity that's using an ad, just selling products and whatnot, you don't have to listen to that. $2.50 a month. There you go. Join us.
Yeah.
Or die.
Claim your freedom. Join us or die. Subtle threat in them.
Also, I'm in the chat now, baby. I'm in the chat. Bartholomew Nocturne. Your man here. I'm going to be commenting.
Nice.
And for just $2.50 more, you can get the video version. So just $5 a month, and you get ad-free and video. What could be better than that? Especially on the Slaanesh episode.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about doing it shirtless, but Lorehammer Legal has enough lawsuits already stacked up. So I'm like, nah, okay, not this time. Fine.
I'll bump it up for us. I've got some fruit, so I'm just gonna eat this like.
Sensually.
Where did you pull that fruit out of?
Don't you worry about it.
They look like they're chocolate covered, but I don't see any chocolate.
There's no, they're just straight up strawberries and grapes. That's it.
But if you want to see this for real and see Court sensually eating fruit, it's just $5 a month. And you can also join the live stream and join us in the chat on the episodes, as well as hopefully being a call-in guest. So that's all.
Yeah. A lot of fun. Love the call-ins always. Yeah, so this episode, Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure. Wow. On this journey, we're going to talk about the Lord of Excess, all his titles, his domains, like what powers this guy, how he manifests himself from his sacred mark to his number, from the color. Then we dive into Slaanesh and the Aeldari special relationship. I'm kind of excited for this little part, where we can kind of get a lot of clarity on souls and what they mean for the gods. Then we'll dive into the philosophy, lots of different philosophies. I think I'd fall to addiction, man. That's kind of the main one in there for me. There's a couple though. Then we'll get to the Dark Prince's realm, all the different 6 levels of hell. Well, not hell, excess and pleasure.
Heaven.
It's heaven to some.
Yeah. Man, but like after a while, your nipples get so chafed and it becomes hell. You ever have that situation?
Can't say that I have.
Okay, well, I guess I'm the only one living out here, I guess.
Look, man, it's all right. No shame.
And then we'll talk about the rivalry and the preferred kind of god that he might want to tease along with. And then if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about Slaanesh's demons. I definitely want to do an episode all about each of the gods' specific demons and their whips and their weapons. And what the fuck is a skull cannon? It's a cannon that shoots skull. Does it work on gunpowder? Or, these are the questions I want to do a whole episode on. So yeah, it's going to be a fun little episode here. And let's take it away with Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure.
Right on. So Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, the Prince of Excess, the Lord of Dark Delights, the Unquenchable Thirst, is the chaos god of pleasure, indulgence, and obsession. To the Imperium, Slaanesh is the Dark Prince, the Perfect One, the Corrupter of Souls. To the Aeldari, Slaanesh is a nightmare-given form, the insatiable abyss they dare not name, she who thirsts. The youngest of the ruinous powers, Slaanesh was born in an explosion of ecstasy and horror, a cataclysm of indulgence so pure, so absolute, that it devoured the very souls of its creators. Its birth cry shattered reality, tearing the heart from the Aeldari Empire and leaving nothing but agony and void in its wake. But Slaanesh is no simple god of pleasure. It is the master of excess in all things, the whisperer of forbidden cravings, the architect of ruinous perfection. To give in is bliss. To resist is torment. Anybody got chills? Hand check, quick hand check. We're good? Okay. Liar, I see you in the chat.
Yeah. No, I'm keeping one hand down this whole episode. Thank you very much. If I have it my way.
Well, here we go. Slaanesh's touch is not reserved for the flesh alone. No. The artist who must craft the perfect masterpiece, the warrior who yearns for the ultimate kill, the noble who drowns in decadent feasts, each belongs to the Dark Prince. What begins as a pursuit of mastery soon becomes an addiction, a spiral of excess from which there is no return. In battle, Slaanesh's followers fight with unnatural grace, striking with a beauty as mesmerizing as it is lethal. The legions of excess march beneath banners of riotous pinks and purples, their war cries a symphony of pleasure and pain. But the true horror of Slaanesh is not its legions, nor in the depraved rituals held in its name. The true horror is that it is always there, in every desire, in every indulgence, in every whispered temptation. Slaanesh waits. The greatest feast can never be enough. The most rapturous pleasures will always fade, and so the dark spiral continues, forever chasing the next thrill, the next high, the next perfect moment, until there is nothing left but a hollow, screaming soul offered freely to the Prince of Perfection.
Goddamn.
Wow.
Yo, you ever walk out of Games Workshop feeling exactly like that? There's nothing left but a hollow, screaming soul offered freely for the Prince of Perfection. And you're just like, well, I got the plastic crack. It wasn't as satisfying as the last time I bought this stuff, but I think maybe if I buy some more, and you go back in and you just keep buying more and more.
Yeah.
There.
You ever been to any Magic players out there, like been to Walmart when Walmart was like open 24/7 and you just go randomly at like 2 a.m. just to buy some booster packs? I've certainly been there. And that's just like that. I need more, man. Yeah. And then the GW, oh man, I got this, but then,
come on.
Oh, this box is coming out. Need that. Oh, jeez.
Can't stop stiffing panties. Come on.
I just like to picture all the Magic heads kind of like passed out in the toy aisle, opening packs and just like
it's so good. Like wrappers everywhere.
Exactly.
Just like,
yeah. Mess. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Let's get into the birth of Slaanesh. And for longtime listeners, if you've ever heard us talk about the Eldar, Dark Eldar, there's a good chance you're familiar with this tale. Find pleasures in every moment. Indulge in every whim. Let lesser races feel the burden of their crude lives. We are beyond such concerns or worries. Every power is ours to use. Every sensation ours to experience. We are truly masters of the galaxy, and all others exist only to satisfy our curiosities. We have earned our position of power. Let us forever taste the fruits of such achievement. Time itself is ours to command. We are eternal. Translated from Aeldari glyphs found amidst the ruins of the Shrine of Celestial Grandeur.
It's kind of a cool little quote that gives you a little bit of insight to what the Eldar were feeling at this time, their kind of mindset.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like finding like an Egyptian like hieroglyphic and kind of getting an insight into a time long past. There's a whisper, a silken promise carried through the ages that a god was not simply created but birthed, not by faith nor by devotion, but by ecstasy, indulgence, and ruinous excess. The ancient Aeldari, once the masters of all they desired, surrendered themselves to pleasure without limit, their passions fanned into infernos that no gratification could quench. Their souls, burning with psychic potency, saturated the warp with every indulgence, every exquisite cruelty, every unspeakable vice. And the warp, ever hungry, did not simply drink from this endless well. It swelled, it swirled, and it gestated. To the ignorant masses of the galaxy, these truths are but whispers, tantalizing half-rumors shrouded in myth. But within the forbidden vaults of the Black Library, where eldritch wisdom festers, the truth is inscribed in pages that tremble with knowing. There, beneath cold and sterile light, lies the history of catastrophe, not of war or conquest, but of unchecked desire. For from the perversions of the Aeldari, from their final surrender to indulgence, beyond imagining, came a god, a divine and insatiable being who reflected the very species that conceived it. Slaanesh was not an accident, it was an inevitability. In their final age of decadence, the Aeldari needed nothing, and so they sought everything. Their mastery of the psychic and the technological had freed them from toil, hunger, fear, and consequence. No act was forbidden, no sensation left unexplored, no whim unfulfilled. To live was to experience, to revel in the endless pleasure of being, to sink deeper into the rapturous spiral of excess. What was restraint was but a relic of the lesser. Their very society had become a cathedral of indulgence, and its willing celebrants. Even death had lost its bite. Why fear oblivion when the soul merely drifted back, to be reborn anew into an eternity of pleasure? They did not know hunger, they did not know suffering, and so in their arrogance they did not know that something in the warp watched, that it listened, that it waited. The Aeldari did not birth a god from their depravity. They nourished it, pampered it, seduced it into existence. When the veil of reality finally split apart in a scream of rapture and horror, the galaxy itself shuddered, and the very species that had reveled in its creation found itself offered to the newborn god as a first exquisite feast. For what is excess, if not the pathway to ruin? And what is Slaanesh, if not the perfect truth of indulgence made flesh?
Yeah, cool. I love the thought of just looking at the Milky Way galaxy from an outsider's perspective and seeing the birth of Slaanesh, and you see the Milky Way get ripped like this huge gaping hole.
Tell me more. Tell me more about it.
It's raw and it's pulsating.
Maybe we'll get into it. I'm curious though, like the blame is so clearly on the Eldar. Like we just all know that lore wise. But when did that blame kind of become known? Because as like the Imperium, you wouldn't really understand that it was the Eldar. The Eldar probably know based on like, I mean, half of them were just fucking gone. Like their souls sucked. And the Exodites leaving, you know, kind of having the idea of like, we're not really into this. But as the Imperium, like, where does that knowledge come from? That like, oh shit, something happened. Who was it? Orcs, we're looking at you. Nope. Okay. Necrons, what the fuck? No. Like, I'm just curious as to see like where that became kind of common knowledge amongst, you know, the galaxy.
I wouldn't say that it's common knowledge. It's always hard to say what is known amongst the Imperium, because the Imperium itself also is very controlling of information, even of its own history, right? Like the Horus Heresy, I don't think is the way we see it as outsiders. They probably know something about a fall, but not the amount of detail that we have. I imagine only like inquisitors, really high level lords, and like archaeologists and like controllers of knowledge probably know the full story, and even then they probably don't know the full story, just from like I read earlier, like the glyphs, like they see little fragments of like this lost Eldar civilization. The Eldar do speak to humans a lot more than the other races. Like there would be more opportunities for them to probably learn from the Eldar, and who knows how much the Eldar would reveal of themselves too in those exchanges. But I imagine they know more than most, but I don't think it would be like widespread knowledge.
And two, the timeline doesn't really line up either. I think I was going a little off the rails there, because like the birth of Slaanesh would have been, I'm guessing, and I'm looking up, like way before humanity.
Yeah, the Imperium wasn't a thing. It wasn't before humanity. It was only a couple hundred years before kind of the Emperor took over.
Yeah.
Man, okay. I'm learning a lot on
yeah,
this
yeah.
one. Yeah, the 30th millennium. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Now-
age, it's like what caused the Age of Strife. So like it blacked out the
Yeah.
galaxy. But yeah, who knew about it or what was going on, like to everyone else, it just seemed like these crazy warp storms just ripped apart the galaxy. They probably didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah. It would be interesting too, even like with the Harlequins, how much they want to pass this story on. You're wondering how would the Imperium even know about this? Because it is before the Imperium. But yeah, with Harlequins, the Eldar doing their plays for people, they're going around passing on like we did a horrible thing, and we should tell you about it so you don't do it as well.
Sure. Would the Harlequins do that though for humans, or would they just do it between craft worlds?
No, I believe they do it for all their lesser races and stuff. They tell people they go and do it for Xenos and stuff.
Okay.
I think it also has to tell you how bad the Eldar race was getting in comparison to others. I mean, they'd been around forever, but they're the ones that did this. And we still have, as humans, like humanity, we're no stranger to excess, to obsession, to pleasure, addiction, all that stuff. I'm sure we played into all that. Now, our souls are not as significant in the grand scheme of things when it comes to, like, if you were to weigh in crude terms a human soul versus an Eldari soul, I'm sure there is a bigger significance in the Eldari soul. So our actions do not speak as loud as what they were capable of. But still, like, all the fucked up shit was still going on before them, and I'm sure we had our hands in it a little bit, but like to go, no. If you think what you're doing is fucked, go look at those guys. They're really mucking it up. Yeah.
It's interesting to look to the different in the birth of the gods. We talked a little bit about how like we don't really know the canon birth, but let's just hypothetically go off they're born in the Dark Ages, like we were talking about, Nurgle and Khorne. But when they were born, they didn't rip the galaxy open, creating this massive thing. It was like this slow build since like basically the beginning of time. Where with Slaanesh, it's an interesting thing where I think it was just so crazy that you get these immortal beings just fulfilling every desire in this brief little period of window that it's such a different birth than the other gods.
You just activated my trap card. I was going to bring up the whole Khorne debate again because, as you know, I'm not a big fan of it. And this, I think, gives me ammunition in the sense of like it took a way more powerful psychic race to birth a god that far into the future. Like Slaanesh is pretty recently born compared to the other gods. So I'm just saying, you don't have to whip a dead horse, but I'm just saying.
Now, okay, well, let's get crazy with it here. Okay, so you say recent in time, like we know the 40K timeline 60 million years from kind of the old ones till now, and we like if once again we go with Khorne being born in the Dark Ages which is the second millennia, and Slaanesh is born in the 30th millennia. That's only 28 millennia difference. That's a blip in 60 million years. That is their next door neighbors on the timeline. And like I said, like I think the big difference is like, yeah, when humans kind of birthed Korn and Nurgle, it's like they were getting out of bed, they're rubbing their eyes, they're sleepy. Where when Slaanesh came onto the scene, because like all the Eldar souls are so hopped up, so much more powerful, it just rips the galaxy. So it's way different. Birth. Does that help at all, or am I still?
I think there's no evidence for any of it. So
this is fictional after all.
This is
Court, what do you think?
I'm unconvinced.
So what are the big debates here then? Like what's
my whole contention is that like humanity is so small and not like at the time of the medieval era, it wasn't even our bloodiest point in history. It was more of like a editorial fun insert that like the authors obviously put in about the Dark Ages being like this bloody and plague riddled era that birthed the gods of plague and war. But A, historically that's not true, and B, like it kind of is at a whack when you have like such a power, like other highly psychic races that have been around for way longer, like the Eldar, like all these other species, other wars, other diseases that no doubt were galaxy wide, and then you have something that takes like an Eldar empire to birth Slaanesh. Like to me, they're not nowhere near the same level. Hold on. Again, I will say like humanity does have a special role with the Chaos Gods, being that the Emperor obviously is like the most powerful individual being who has been around since before that time. So I will give credence to that being a factor, but I don't know. I'm unconvinced.
I think I'm kind of in the middle ground where it's like it doesn't matter to me in the sense that like I don't want to be the guy like it's just fiction, but it is, and I think it's cooler because look, I'm not an Eldar. I know. Spoiler alert. Okay, look,
spoilers.
I'm not a Necron.
Gotta spend $5 to verify that though.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, but like as a human player of Warhammer 40K, isn't it more fun to think that we fucked it up? Isn't it more fun to think that like as a as an American kid growing up, in school, and I would say, maybe most across the world, but like in school, the medieval times, medieval ages, the Dark Ages, all that stuff, like that is such a very cool, intriguing time. I don't want to say cool, it was probably really fucked up, but like it was a very intriguing time to learn about. Yeah, not very cool. Super not party time, but but at very least what that it was so horrendous and violent and horrific that as a Warhammer 40K player, like we have to have some blame as humans. Like I am a human physically pushing plastic across the table. So it's cool to think that like, oh, we fucked up. Oh, we're part of this. Like, I just think it has a little bit more like, you know what, man, it's just fiction. And like, if we want to go like, this would actually be more accurate. I'm not trying to make fun of you, Christian, I promise. But like, oh, no, I promise. But like, if we were to kind of do the, actually the other ages were far more violent and darker. Like, yeah, but who knows that? Like, it's more prevalent common knowledge that like the idea of the medieval age and the all that was fucked. And so we stick with that. Like it's easy to write. It's easier to write.
You're voting for the rule of cool, and I'm all for that, man. It sounds fucking cool that they were born then.
I agree with that your take that humans having a role to play. I'm not saying humans can't have a role to play. It's just an inconsistency to me that is like that breaks my suspension of disbelief. Let's say.
I think you're not fully understanding though what I mean. Like, okay, so once again, we'll go back to timeline. In 60 million years, 3 gods were born so close together, which means for these 60 million years, these gods were all gaining sentience or power kind of at the same pace relatively, when Korn and Nurgle were born, the whole galaxy was contributing. We say it happened during the Dark Ages but it wasn't exclusively because of the Dark
Sure,
Ages.
you're saying
That's just when
everything
it
up
happened.
until yes.
Yeah, and
Everything
from other
up
races too. And like I said, the big difference is like when the Eldar birthed their thing, they ripped the galaxy. Like they broke the galaxy a little bit. Where these other gods were this slow build because it wasn't this super. All of a sudden, all these Eldar psychics are going crazy. You know, it's a very different kind of birthing process. It's a fucking C-section as opposed to a natural birth, and I guess Nurgle is like a filthy, bloody water birth.
Jeez. I was wondering if we were going to get into some sort of like actual birth scenarios here.
Yeah.
I think
I said my. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think it feels like a little bit of like the debate, like this is even more niche a little bit, but if I was to say like Queens of the Stone Age, like one of my favorite bands, like, and some of the guys in the chat maybe get this, like they're like, oh yeah, like Songs for the Deaf is like the Fuzz album, so good, really cool, and you're like, but actually Rated R is a far superior album because it has
technically speaking.
Technically, there's more fuzz pedals on that one, and Mark Lanigan's voice adds to grab. Like, yeah, but not many people know that album in retrospect compared to Songs for the Deaf. So I think it's like comparing something that's more well known, and you can pinpoint and go, well, it's cooler to write about that because more people know about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. I know we're going off, but yeah.
Yep.
We didn't have to go down this road. I tried.
I know. I love you, Christian.
Well,
I'm just saying. I just wanted to kind of poke that a little bit.
You know, and that is kind of like you said, it is kind of nice to not know, and that's one of the things we've always talked about appreciating, because we just had a fucking 15-minute conversation, and now we're all closer because of it. We just went through a war together, a war of language. Anyways, I'm gonna carry on reading.
I like to think of it as an orgy of language, but yeah.
No, God, Yikes. The Aeldari were not simply a people of passion, they were creatures of indulgence, connoisseurs of excess, artisans of pleasure refined beyond mortal comprehension. They did not love as lesser beings do, as mere Christian does. They devoured affection, wringing it dry of meaning in such an even greater highs. Their thirst for sensations was boundless, their curiosity insatiable, their pursuit of the new relentless. What restraint could exist for a species unburdened by consequence? Freed from the toil, from the need, from death itself, they turned inward, their limitless mind spiraling to the realms of indulgence where no law, no morality, no hesitation could restrain them. And as their exquisite desires deepened, so too did the ripples they cast into the immaterium. For what is the warp if not a mirror of the soul? When an entire race surrendered itself to indulgence unending, the psychic tide swelled and frothed, responding to the sheer weight of pleasure. Their unchecked lusts and deprived hungers, their exquisite cruelties, all of it took root in the Imperium, nourished by their reckless abandon. And in time, the warp did not simply answer, it gestated. This was the fall, the grand tragedy studied with sterile detachment by the Black Council, those solemn archivists of the Black Library. Their chronicles do not merely speak of disaster. They whisper of cautions ignored, of a price paid in screams of delight turned to agony, of an empire that collapsed not under war, but under the weight of its own wants. The Aeldari, in their boundless ecstasy, had not merely created a god, they had gifted themselves to it, body and soul, without knowing the feast they had prepared. Slaanesh was not a distant deity, one to be venerated from afar. The newborn's god's touch was immediate, intimate, and all-consuming. And when it hungered, the vast majority of the Aeldari species, so intimately woven into the warp by their indulgences, were devoured in a single, shuddering moment of rupture and despair. Their bodies withered, their souls ignited, and then nothing. There was the first sacrifice upon the altar of the Prince of Excess, the first lovers in the eternal dance of ruin. For the Aeldari had embraced indulgence so deeply had they become its slaves, and in the end, pleasure is only the prelude to possession. Yeah, so that sheds a little bit. Not that we want to go back to that whole birthing process, but a little bit more of Slaanesh's birth, where not only during this process did she rip open the materium, she also devoured like a lot of Eldar souls, the vast majority of the Eldari Empire, which is pretty crazy to think about. Like you just have this whole empire just wiped off the map. They were ruling the galaxy for damn near 60 million years and just gone.
Mm-hmm. And in that initial birth, I think it's cool to kind of see it as like it happens, rips that hole, right? And its birth is like physical and also metaphysical. And then as soon as it's born, it instantly grows in strength because of all that the Eldari souls that it had consumed. So it's not only like here I am, it's like here I am and I just got bigger in that sense.
Yeah.
And stronger. I love where you said it. Their souls ignited. It was the first sacrifice upon the altar of the Prince of Excess. Like, what a wonderful birthday present.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Here's a bunch of souls.
Yeah. And it speaks to like the lesson of Slaanesh, where man, excess is usually gonna lead you down a path of like self-sacrifice, where it's not gonna be good if you indulge too much in some things.
Yeah.
The comments are out of control.
I know the chat is just going off. It's so good.
It's like hitting a whip it while busting. Yeah.
Man. And another kind of geographic note on the birth of Slaanesh too, just while we're on the topic, is like it is where the Eye of Terror is where the Eldar Empire's heart was, right? Like it destroyed their home heart of their empire again, like you said, all those souls just in an instant gone.
Yeah.
Is there any I haven't read many of the Black Library books, mostly just like a few of the Horus Heresy stuff and a couple Necron books and Space Wolves, but like are there any books that would describe this in detail? Like, because like that moment just sounds so amazing and horrible, but like I would love to know if somebody's written about it in the sense that like, okay, the Eldari are on some of their craft worlds, this thing happened. Like, is there like some sort of lead up in the sense of like they hear something, or like do people just like see their souls get sucked out and then they fall on the ground and they're just like a lifeless husk? Like, I'm just curious about it.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I do know there's a well-liked I think trilogy of Eldar books that kind of are around this time and like the rise of Azurian. So that might be worth looking into, but I haven't read them myself, so I don't know to what degree. Like it takes place during the fall of the Eldar, but I don't know to what degree it's described as an event.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
After a quick Google search, they didn't have anything like this predates even the Imperium. We go back another little bit, so. Yeah, and like Christian said, maybe there is the odd like little paragraph or little chapter here or there in a book, but yeah, it's pretty untapped.
Yeah, because I would assume it's pretty instantaneous and not some long process. We talk about it just boom, tearing asunder, and it happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, one guy at a party does that fourth whippet while busting, and then boom, Slaanesh is born, just like that one Eldar caused
like a nuke going off.
Yeah.
A blinding flash and then nothing.
Yeah. Soul nuke, man. Yeah. Well, let's get into some titles here. So Slaanesh obviously has many titles that reflect who they are, and they're just a lot of fun, just really, really cute. So Slaanesh, the Dark Prince of Chaos, is known by many titles that reflects the deity's hedonistic and insidious nature. As the Prince of Pleasure and Lord of Excess, Slaanesh embodies the relentless pursuit of sensation, drawing mortals and demons alike into a spiral of indulgence and depravity. The name Perfect Prince speaks to the illusion of ultimate beauty and refinement that Slaanesh offers, while Master of Excess in all things highlights the boundless appetite for experience, whether through ecstasy or agony. Even among the gods of chaos, Slaanesh is a uniquely seductive force, often called the Prince of Chaos for standing apart in its eternal hunger for perfection. Yet to the Aeldari, Slaanesh is Cylon Thresh, she who thirsts, the nightmare that devoured their civilization and continues to haunt their every step, a reminder that no pleasure comes without a price. Question. So, do you think that it's kind of the opposite of, and we're going to double nerd here real quick, like Voldemort? So, by saying like he who should not be named, right? If you were to say Voldemort, it like gives him like power or whatever. Like, do you think by all these different cultures naming Slaanesh something, calling it something different, Slaanesh is just like, yes, give me titles. Yes, I love your creativity with me. Like, isn't this just kind of like self-serving in that?
Yeah, that's so funny.
Right?
More titles, the better. I'll have you know, I did look up. Chinch does technically have more titles than Slaanesh, but like,
Yeah,
you
when
know,
we
I
went through
think,
that episode, I was so shocked at how many.
yeah, but She Who Thirsts, man, it's such an iconic kind of unique title. Like, well, what is she thirsting for? It kind of gets your mind going. It's not just like the Dark Prince of Chaos, which, yeah, you get the idea, but it doesn't kind of want you leading or want you more knowing more.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
She Who Thirsts.
All right, let's get into the domains of Slaanesh. Slaanesh reigns over the realms of indulgence and sensation, drawing mortals and demons alike into the endless pursuit of pleasure, passion, and excess. As a god of hedonism and decadence, Slaanesh whispers temptations of unchecked desire, luring the weak-willed with the promise of ultimate perfection. Yet this path is not only one of delight, but also of pain, for the Prince of Chaos thrives equally on suffering as on ecstasy. The domains of lust, greed, and gluttony fuel an insatiable hunger, while temptation and indulgence ensure no soul ever finds true satisfaction. Even joy and sadness belong to Slaanesh, for all emotions, when pushed to their limits, become another form of excess. In the end, those who seek the Dark Prince's gifts find themselves forever bound, chasing the impossible, never sated, lost in the endless dance of torment and bliss. Go ahead.
I like the little bit about how every emotion can lead down the path of excess and therefore power Slaanesh. And like, you know, Slaanesh is just one of the big corruptors. So even any emotion, you're gonna get corrupted.
Yeah. It explains why the Eldar are the way that they are too, right? Like in avoiding Slaanesh, they try to not feel things. Like they turn down their emotions on purpose.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this before, but again, just to harp on any new listeners, like Slaanesh isn't just about sex. Like gluttony, excess, like there's other ways to Slaanesh. Of course, we do make a lot of sex jokes, obviously, but
It's just because, you know, it's so relatable for all of us. You know, we get on the rags,
such low hanging
right?
fruit. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's important to remember that it's more than just that. I like to think of the flow state too, like that people get into when they're like really good at something, or you know, like artists or athletes and stuff, where like that pursuit of perfection, that you know, almost otherly world experience when they pursue like art or their craft. All those things can go too far and like control your life, and in Slaanesh's case, destroy it.
Yeah. What do you think about the opposite of excessive, where it's like, okay, so, you know, you got the addict who now doesn't do it at all, but in and of itself creates this own kind of excessive not doing it. Is that a thing, you know, where, like, once again, you're kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't at a certain point.
I think if you derive some kind of pleasure from abstinence, then yes.
That
But I
would be
don't
what
think,
I was for,
yeah,
abstinence. Yeah.
I don't think that it's strictly Because again, like that's what the Eldar do to fight off Slaanesh is pretty much practice like absence of emotion, and they're obsessive with it. They're highly disciplined, like almost too
Sure.
disciplined. But that doesn't invert and suddenly make them Slaanesh worshippers again, right?
Yeah.
I think there is value in denial when it comes to Slaanesh. Again, there are people who get off on that, and at that point, yes, you're back into the loop. But as long as it's not doing anything
every
for you.
case. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you, Christian. I think that's spot on. Like, I think that's the distinction, and it's the absence of something rather than the excess. The absence has to then meet that requirement of like, do you need that? Is there an obsession with that? Is there a pleasure that comes from the abscess of something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll jump into some of his manifestations. Slaanesh is not a mere god. It is perfection given form, a being sculpted from the very essence of beauty, pleasure, and indulgence. Where Korn bellows in rage, Chinch writhes in maddening flux, and Nurgle wallows in his own pestilence, Slaanesh alone is divine. It is not simply worshipped, it is desired, craved, an obsession that grips mortals and immortals alike with hunger that can never be sated. Neither man nor woman, and yet both in exquisite harmony, Slaanesh defies the crude distinctions of lesser beings, the Aeldari whisper of she who thirsts, while humanity calls it the Dark Prince. But these names are mere attempts to confine the uncontainable. In truth, Slaanesh is limitless, capable of assuming any form it wishes, a lover's embrace, a tormentor's smile, a fleeting image of everyone has ever longed for but could never possess. It is a dream of ecstasy made flesh, and like all dreams, it is inescapable. When Slaanesh walks, it does so with effortless grace, each movement an intoxicating display of impossible allure. Long-limbed and elegant, clad in form-fitting armor lined with the most decadent of silks, it carries itself like a monarch of sensation, exuding the promise of pleasures untold. Atop its head, 2 pairs of slender, wicked horns rise from the flowing golden hair, a crown befitting a deity of indulgence. In its hand, a jade scepter rests, a symbol of dominion over every excess, every forbidden urge, every whispered desire too shameful to speak aloud. To gaze upon Slaanesh is to feel need unlike any other. To truly behold it is to surrender completely, body and soul, to a hunger that will never end. For Slaanesh does not take, it invites, it seduces, and once again, its embrace has you. Once its voice has filled your mind with honeyed whispers of forbidden delights, there is no escape. For Slaanesh is pleasure itself, and pleasure is the most exquisite form of ruin.
That sounded like that last line that you said, Mark. That was great. That just sounded like some sort of like perfume ad, like Dior, like for pleasure itself is, and pleasure is the most exquisite form of ruin. Dior.
Oh man. Well, yeah, you can buy the Lorehammer fucking perfume over at Redbubble there. Smells like Christian, tastes like me.
Oh, that's good.
I kind of like this little bit too. It kind of gave a new meaning of she who thirsts. Oftentimes I look at that through she's thirsting after the Eldar souls, and when they die, they go to Slaanesh. But also, it's like kind of the emotion she invokes in her followings, like that thirsting for more, where it's like, yeah, I'm never gonna have enough of whatever I'm kind of addicted to or craving.
Yeah, it goes both ways, which is really cool. And then modern internet parlance, thirsting, thirst trap, all the thirsty language. Yeah, it works on many levels.
Many levels.
If you're not connecting with the material in this episode, I think you're not self-aware enough. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just like, I don't get it, I'm fine. I'm just nope, pay my taxes, just work my job.
I love paying taxes.
I love paying taxes. Oh, but you love it. How much do you love it? Huh?
How much
Would you say an
do you love
excessive amount, Christian?
Punish me harder, daddy government.
Yeah. Tax me more.
Oh God.
Oh man. All right. I think this is supposed to be the sacred mark, but it says scared mark on the notes. I was like, am I supposed to scare Mark here?
He's had that typo on all of them too. He hasn't changed it. I was gonna make a joke about it, but I
That's
never.
good.
Classic.
That's good. The mark of Slaanesh is a brand of devotion, a symbol of absolute surrender to the Dark Prince's temptation. Those who, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of the artist formerly known as Prince now.
You're not wrong.
Mark is scaroused. Yeah, guys. If you need to, just go look up Prince and then look up the artist formerly known as Prince and the symbol. This is all I'm just thinking of during this whole thing here. So, a symbol of absolute surrender to the Dark Prince's temptations. Those who bear this mark are forever changed, their bodies and minds reshaped by the insatiable hunger for pleasure, pain, and perfection. It manifests in countless ways, sensory perception sharpened to impossible levels, voices that enthrall and ensnare, and bodies sculpted into unsettling, unnatural beauty. Those marked by Slaanesh move with an eerie grace, their every motion a mesmerizing display of excess and refinement. Yet the mark is more than a physical transformation. It is a curse of obsession, binding its bearer to an unending pursuit of sensation, where even agony is another shade of ecstasy. Warriors branded with this sign strike with terrifying speed, their heightened reflexes turning battle into an art form of exquisite carnage. Whether a whispered promise or a blazing brand upon the flesh, the mark of Slaanesh is both a blessing and a doom. Once given, it is never relinquished. I think that's really cool. And you see it a lot, of course, on, like, if you look up like Emperor's Children, most of the models and all the new models and stuff, like, they have really cool symbolism on there. Like, and you see it talks about, like, in that early paragraph when I was saying the bodies and minds reshaped by insatiable hunger, sensory perception is heightened, talking about eerie grace, every
Yeah.
motion mesmerizing display of excess and refinement. It's interesting too, because as I was reading this, I was really trying hard not to laugh, because I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I live right next door to what's called Scottsdale. And if anybody knows anything about Scottsdale, Arizona, it is the land of yoga pants and Teslas. It is the land of Botox and Louis Vuitton purses. It's just like
Nice.
fucking hoity-toity yuppie scum stuff. And like, I now look and I'm gonna be like, there's the mark of Slaanesh on you. I see that. I see. You're not hiding. I see that
Yeah,
your face has been pulled back 5 different ways. Slaaneshi, I see you.
Slaaneshi cultists. Yeah, man. There's a lot of Slaaneshi people when you go that way for sure.
Yeah.
Or you go to Hollywood too, you get some Slaaneshi aspects there. I
lived
like
there.
this.
I lived there for 3 years. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I like the mark and how it actually gives its like wearers power. And I wonder how that kind of works. Like, you got a kid doodling little marks on a piece of paper. Obviously, if you drew a Slaanesh one, that probably wouldn't have power. But just imagine like the ritual to empower one of these sacred marks to empower you to then become faster or more lithe or whatever. First, you must collect the blood of 7 pigeons. Then, or actually 6 pigeons, because up next is this, the sacred number. But yeah, it's cool that this mark actually like grants some type of blessing, and it's not just like an identifier.
Yeah, I mean,
and you even see it on the new box too.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you were saying there too. Definitely, like, I 100% like Prince's whole thing, like Prince the singer artist would have done that whole change probably close to the time where Slaanesh was being made by GW, so 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. And Prince has that like very, sensual. His name is Prince, and this is a Prince of Pleasure. Like there is no doubt in my mind that was very closely linked.
I'm on it. I'm researching it. I fucking love Prince. Saw him live once when I was in high school. One of the greatest shows I've ever seen. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Purple Rain.
Yeah, he's
Purple fucking Rain. That is one of the greatest albums of all time. Amazing movie. I love Prince. I'll look
tell me
it up.
that
Here we
doesn't
go.
sound like a Slaanesh
No.
song though. Purple Rain. You kidding me?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's dive into his sacred number 6, or sex. The sacred number of Slaanesh is 6, a symbol of the Dark Prince's obsession with symmetry, excess, and unnatural perfection. This number echoes throughout Slaanesh's domain, from the 6 winged demons that serve the prince's court to the 6-fold layers of pleasure and torment that await those who fall into the god's grasp. Devotees of Slaanesh often structure their warbands, rituals, and blasphemous acts around the number, believing it draws the Dark Prince's favor. Whether it be a 6-note melody played on a demonic instrument, 6-bladed whips wielded by chosen champions, or 6 sacrifices offered upon the silk-draped altars, the presence of this number is an omen of indulgence, obsession, and inevitable doom. Even in battle, warriors marked by Slaanesh may move in the 6-man formations, striking with speed and grace that turns combat into an elegant, deadly performance. To the followers of excess, 6 is not merely a number, it is the rhythm of their endless pursuit, the cadence of their insatiable desires.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Following
they say
up,
like, go for it.
just follow up. 1983 is the earliest mention of Slaanesh in where is it? In the Realms of Chaos, Slaves to Darkness book. 1988. And maybe 83 here, Slaanesh first edition Warhammer. So 93 was when Prince made his switch due to
Interesting.
contractual stuff with not Warhammer Cheese, with Warner Brothers.
GW trying to sue Prince.
So
I am actually surprised at that. I totally would have thought it would have been the other way around, but it does look like Slaanesh came first. Slaanesh always comes first, by the way. The other thing too is, I mean, like the symbol looks like it's really inspired by the merger of the male and female symbols.
Mhm.
And I think Prince was going for the same thing with his symbol as well. So it could also just be like syncretism in the design.
Culture and sure.
Yeah, but also, even though Slaanesh may have emerged earlier, the symbol itself, you'd have to look up when the symbol was designed as well, because that could have come later. We're going down the rabbit hole.
I like it. Symbolism is super important.
We're going down all kinds of holes tonight. Yeah. Anyways, back to the number 6 while you look that up, Court. Obviously, I am not big into numerology, so I don't know any other kind of things around 6 other than, I mean, really, like the satanic 6 is like 666, which doesn't necessarily come out in Slaanesh specifically. No. That's more of a Grey Knight thing. But I will say that like part of Satan's allure isn't like the red goat-footed version. It's like that angelic, beautiful, attractive, inviting version. So like that seductive version, right?
Yeah. Did you see The Witch, the movie?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So good. And yeah, so I'm not going to say anything besides this because I don't want to spoil things, but wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
There you go.
If you haven't seen the movie, then watch it. But if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
It's definitely worth a watch. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Man, now I don't know if I want to say what I'm going to say next about spoilers. Did I mention the goat thing on here? I've talked about goats to other people.
And the witch. So there you go. It's a tie-in.
Yeah.
Have I talked about goats? Have you guys heard me talk about goats?
Okay, no. Here's an interesting fact that I discovered recently. Is goats are not afraid of fire. They often use like fire and embers to like burn parasites and things off of their fur. So they'll like
Hmm.
actively sit down in like coal and like hot coals and in fires. There's even a video that I saw recently of a goat charging into a blazing chimney and trying to climb up the chimney, and the owners keep pulling it out of the fire, and it's like charging right in. Now, like 99% of animals, including people, are absolutely terrified of fire. Like the heat is uncomfortable, like it hurts obviously when you touch it. But goats do not care. And there is no doubt in my mind that the goat association with Satan and like Satanism, especially like in the medieval era, probably comes from goats not being scared of fire, because fire and brimstone, hell, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like no other, that's such an unnatural behavior to witness a goat throwing itself into fire.
Yeah, what a weird kind of.
Yeah, go Google it, man. It's crazy. It's crazy to
Yeah.
see it. Like these owners are dragging the goat out of the fire, and the goat's like
Yeah.
wanting to jump.
But then
jump
just
into it.
even how that then bleeds into the mythos or whatever we want to call it there, like of how it just kind of okay, now Satan has demon legs like goats and like
And that has like Greek associations too, with like Pan and like there's a huge like
people
rabbit
been burning goats since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Fucking them too.
Back to Slaanesh.
All right, this is my final chance to the sales pitch you guys the sacred color and if it really has meaning. The sacred colors of Slaanesh shimmer with an unsettling allure designed to captivate, seduce, and overwhelm the senses. Deep, seductive hues of purple and lilac dominate his domain, representing both the dark velvet of indulgence and the aching beauty of forbidden pleasure. These colors bleed into gold, the shade of opulence and perfection, their lustrous gleam echoing the emptiness of the relentless pursuit for ultimate sensation. Accents of black and silver evoke both mystery and refinement, as it's draped in the shadows of decadence and the gleam of painful perfection. Together, these colors form an intoxicating palette, one that hints at the duality of Slaanesh's domain, where beauty and horror, pleasure and pain are inextricably intertwined. To be bathed in these hues is to be drawn into the Prince of Excess's grasp, as his followers drape themselves in the garnished splendor of their bodies and banners marked by these unholy shades, each a reminder of the inescapable decadence that consume all who seek to taste his forbidden delights. Okay, let me reframe this question for you guys in a different way. You know, I've asked, do you think you should only paint them, your tabletop demons, the god's color? Corn demons should be red. Let's pretend for a second we're not playing tabletop and there is no painting models. And like, then do you think that the demons, like, because I feel like a lot of the resistance is because people want to have that little bit of that creative aspect when painting their demons. But to me, it just seems like, man, if you don't got purple demonettes, what are you doing? That you've lost so much power. Just like with the sacred number, if you run in squads of 5, what are you up to? Is there any movement on that, or is it like you're just bound to the creative fervor drummed up in painting minis a certain way?
I think you have to have a fun reason for it, and not have to, because I'm all for like, fuck it, man, do what you want. As long as you're having fun on the table, it's cool. But like, I agree. I think lore wise, like it makes absolute sense that corn demons are shades of red and, maybe black and whatnot. And with demonettes of Slaanesh and things, it's like this pinkish purple, lavender color. But if you want to make them whatever you want, I love the idea of like make them whatever you want, but have some fun reason for it. Like don't play Ultramarines and they're like, well, these are green Ultramarines. Why? Because I see dark angels. I see salamanders.
Yeah.
And if you were like, you know what, like I'm just obsessed with this shade of red, and that's what Slaanesh calls to me in this way, and like, yeah, cool, that's rad. Do that.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely I can be won over with a lore reason pretty easy for sure.
Yeah.
You come up with that rule of cool idea and all of a sudden I'm happy.
Yeah.
I think Slaanesh would be, and I'm like racking my brain for trying to come up with an excuse because usually I like these creative exercises, but I think of all the gods, Slaanesh would be the one that would appear to you in a form that you most like. So you could use that excuse.
Mhm.
That's
I'm
true. Yeah, like
really
your favorite
reaching
color
here,
is
but
blue. No, well,
yeah,
like when we get to the Keeper of Secrets, the greater demon, they do appear to you in that shape or form, whatever.
right.
They're gonna trick you, seduce you,
Yeah,
tempt you. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm just even thinking in the form that they take, it wouldn't like they could even shapeshift, like again, to be like a beautiful woman or a man or whatever it is that's your thing, right? Like
the goat.
a goat, yeah, a very
Mhm.
sexy goat. Whatever it is,
Mm.
that's the form they would take, right? They're mirroring you, they're mirroring your lusts and your desires. So yeah, like if you have an obsession with gold, like maybe they appear like golden or
Mhm. Until they
Sure.
get you, and then I think you kind of
and then
submit
they
to whatever they
revert.
want. Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Then you become their bitch. Yeah.
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 Purple's such a perfect color for this too. I think it's very calming. It's very alluring. It's soothing in that sense. Like that pink. It's never this really harsh. At least I haven't seen much from the GW side of like harsh hot pink. It's always this kind of like really nice mellow pink kind of thing. And if you look at like the color wheel, so take the color wheel and I just put it up here, but like look at purple. The opposite color from purple is my least favorite color, and it is so just like in your face, distracting. It's yellow. Yellow is such a like look at me, bright color, and then you have something else that's a little more just like elegant, seductive, and purple. Uh, liars comment. I love it. I love you, brother. My demons appear as court. Thank you. I love that. Purple in different cultures and in most historical references represents royalty. So when we talk about the Prince of Pleasure, we give this title of the prince. All that. Purple just seems to fit so well.
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
Yeah. And purple used to be the most expensive color, which is why it was royalty. Did I go on this tangent before, Mark? About
I think we did on the Emperor's Children
Yeah.
episode not too long ago, but yeah.
yeah. So I'll go back and
And
listen for the whole purple.
Purple rain. It's all tied.
Right?
It's all tied
See?
together.
Prince is
Oh,
the
Prince
of
is Prince of Pleasure. I would agree.
Next time we get a big hitter from old GW back in the day, we'll ask him some questions about some of these things. Where did you get the inspiration? Yeah. What
Okay,
came first?
hold
Prince
up.
or
Check
Prince?
this out. You ready? So
Yeah.
the first iteration, the first appearance of Slaanesh was 1983 in Warhammer Fantasy. Purple Rain came out in 1984. It's a little close.
We're getting there. We just need to fudge one number, and we've created a hell of a conspiracy. I like it.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, very interesting. So the relationship between Slaanesh and the Aeldari. This is where it gets kind of a little dicey on the old relationship front there. So Slaanesh and the Aeldari, the birth of Slaanesh at the climax of what imperial historians call the Age of Strife, heralded not just the end of an era, but the very soul-crushing demise of the Aeldari. They speak of her as she who thirsts, a name born from the feverish hunger that gnaws at the very fabric of their being, an endless craving for their souls, so sweet, so succulent, and eternally unquenched. In the wake of Slaanesh's birth, the Aeldari's once vibrant homeworlds crumbled beneath a shockwave of real space destruction, the cataclysmic aftermath of the fall that obliterated their worlds, consuming all they once held dear. Even their most cherished craft worlds, meticulously crafted by their finest seers as a last refuge, were not spared. But Slaanesh's thirst was not slaked by the destruction of their homes, nor by the screams of their dying kin. No, the Dark Prince of Pleasure turned her attention to the very gods of the Aeldari pantheon. One by one, she devoured them, reducing the divine to nothing but ash, leaving only 3 gods to cower in the shadows: Cain, Kegarak, and Isha, the latter now a prisoner languishing in Nurgle's festering garden. Mhm. Born from the seething core of Aeldari essence itself, Slaanesh has become a parasite of the soul, a predator that feeds on the suffering, their pleasures, and their eternal torment. The essence of an Aeldari, once free and radiant, is now but a morsel for Slaanesh, consumed in the warp unless a spirit stone safeguards its escape. Without this protection, the soul becomes a delectable feast for the Prince of Excess, devoured with ravenous glee. In a futile attempt to stave off the insatiable hunger, the Aeldari of the craft worlds, the Asuryani, have erected barriers. Don't get too excited with that word choice, guys. Have erected barriers of control and denial. These strict paths that they follow, rigid disciplines designed to temper their indulgences and prevent the descent into unrelenting pleasure or forbidden knowledge, serve as a fragile armor. Yet even they are not safe. The spirit stones, their last line of defense, only delay the inevitable, for in the end, the prince always comes. The Harlequins, those mysterious enigmatic Aeldari, dance a different dance. In their ritualistic acts, they free themselves from the curse of Slaanesh, whether by invoking the protection of Kegarak, the laughing god, or by sundering to the inevitable the solitaire, a rare and solitary being who has already pledged their soul to Slaanesh in a twisted final dance. These cursed souls, both reviled and revered, are not allowed to die in peace. Instead, when they fall, the laughing god himself emerges from the webway to contest Slaanesh for the stolen prize. But in the end, this is merely a fleeting reprieve, for the solitaire is already marked, bound to the Prince of Excess in ways that no ritual can cleanse. Meanwhile, the Drukhari, the sadistic, cruel remnants of the Aeldari, have cast aside all pretense of protection. They do not shield their souls from Slaanesh's insatiable desire. Instead, they embrace it, sundering willingly to the Prince of Pleasure. Their lives are an endless cascade of hedonism and suffering, living long enough to feel the sweet agony of their souls being devoured piece by piece. To stave off complete annihilation, the Drukhari feed on others, siphoning their souls to fuel their own immortality. This endless cycle of capture, torment, and consumption has become their only defense against the lustful grip of she who thirsts. In the dark recesses of the galaxy, where pleasure and pain are indistinguishable, Slaanesh reigns supreme, ever hungry, ever reaching, ever feasting, and in the end, all must bow before her, for she is not merely a god of excess. She is excess itself. I just got a Beyonce vibe on that last one. I don't know why. just had a Beyonce vibe on the last one. Question for you guys, and maybe chat, you guys can jump in on this. So if you're an Aeldari, which I loved learning this, I didn't understand the paths, like the paths of the seer. Like I thought that was such a cool thing, like this strict code of conduct, this kind of way that you go through your life. I didn't realize that was to prevent giving into that excess. So as an Aeldari, when you have that little temptation, when you feel the need to like just go a little bit more or want something or hunger for something, do you think that there's a kind of pull at your soul a little bit? Like, do you feel that like discomfort of like Slaanesh kind of trying to grip you, or is it like it's not there yet because you haven't given in?
Yeah, that's a very
What do you
interesting
think?
thought. Like, yeah, like you start having nightmares all of a sudden because you're starting to do go down a little darker path. Yeah, that's a very interesting thought. I don't know if I have a good answer for you on that one. Christian, do you have any thought?
No, yeah. Like I like it conceptually, but I don't know that there's definitive. I don't read a lot of Eldar books either, so I'm not the guy to ask. If there is descriptions even on pulling or feelings of like what that's like. I'm sure there are from like Eldar point of view, but I couldn't speak to it.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah.
Well, a couple interesting things in all these little interactions here. We get an interaction with the Eldar Pantheon, and what I thought was kind of interesting, we never really touched on, was this interaction with the Eldar Pantheon and Slaanesh of, Isha getting trapped and Slaanesh eating all the gods. It happened in M30. Like, this is, once again, it's relatively new history. It still happened a long time ago, but still relatively new. So I thought that was interesting that all the way up until pretty much 10,000 years ago, the Eldar still were closely tied to the Pantheon. Like, they were there.
Yeah.
I also
no, finish your thought.
Nope. No, I was going to jump to my next one. You go.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say also that the Eldar aren't so far removed from their old way of life, in the sense that Eldar who have lived so long, it's only been 10,000 years since their empire blew up.
Yeah, like especially when the Dark Eldar have people in the city who were there potentially and remembered the fall, because just time shenanigans and age and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. I also like kind of just how we see, like you kind of mentioned it there, Court, the different ways that the Eldar actually fight off Slaanesh, whether it's through, using the pass system and abstaining, or, that alone is not good enough. You need to use that in conjunction with a spirit stone. So when you do die, your soul gets consumed into there instead, or safe kept in there instead. With the Harlequins, they got their weird system going on with their solitaires, where they're actually like they're blanks. They have no psychic powers at all, and that's very interesting thought for Eldar. Who are known for being a psychic race, and how they would kind of get along with everyone of their race being a blank. But
yeah, that's a fun interaction to think about, and situations that could kind of arise from that.
Yeah, especially because like you got this Harlequin blank who is like respected, like it's part of your culture and heritage, and like the Harlequin are well revered and all that, but at the same time you fucking hate him because he's a stupid fucking blank.
Maybe that's like the thing though, is it's a way to admire them from a distance by making them go off and go with these, like, get off our craft world, but we'll see you again when you do your dance, but stay away from us. Like, we'll admire you from afar, kind of thing.
Yeah. The reason why these solitaires kind of are blanks and stuff is because during the performance they play Slaanesh herself. So it's like, in order to not get destroyed when doing it, they have to kind of have no connection, or to embody Slaanesh in a form like that, it would doom other Eldar.
Yeah, it's just too risky. And that's cool too, because
cool,
like it is a performance art too, right? So like they are acting in a way that could very well actually unleash Slaanesh.
Yep. Yep.
So really playing with fire.
Yeah. And then the Drukhari, cool too. It's like, yeah, they're constantly being soul sucked, and maybe that's why they're so emo. Like, that's the feeling.
I love getting my soul sucked.
Yeah, all of a sudden you start parting your hair to the side and dyeing it black. And yeah. So in order to fight that off, you suck other people's souls.
Yeah, but it's a win-win for Slaanesh either way. Like, it doesn't matter.
You're still getting fed. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's very interesting how the Eldars kind of handled this situation.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we know much about like how Exodites do it. Like, I suppose they still do have their infinity circuit in their world tree with their spirit stones. But without the path system, maybe they just live by like that simple farmer life. So they're not really
Yeah, I think of
dormant.
them as like the Amish, right? Like it's that simplicity. Like they desire for nothing because they just work the fields and they live with nature, and that is enough. There's no need to aspire to more or excess. It's just
There's no need to murder fuck.
yeah.
It's the Eldari, like it's a form that should have remained, should have continued that way until they like, ooh, that feels kind of good. Let's do that. You know, nope, don't do that.
Yeah, like I did mention the Amish, but it is kind of like that, where they like, if you know the story of the Exodites, if you go listen to our Eldar episodes, like they saw what was coming and they left early. They're like, we don't want any part of this. We know where this goes. So they were actually like pretty good about having the foresight to see how this was all going to end up. So they were out there like living their simple lives even before the Eldar, you know, ended up in this mess. It's not like after the fact they're like, oh shoot, we should change the way we lived. It's like they avoided being tainted to begin with by pursuing simplicity.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about. We'll take a little turn here to the philosophy of the followers of Slaanesh and Slaanesh herself. I got a fun quote here, and then 3 different philosophies that we'll kind of discuss. But the quote is from Sanctifer Levay from the Cult of the Sacred Union, or the Scared Union, depending on how I spelt it. I'm not even sure at this point. Embrace your hunger, your lust, your desire. The universe is ours for the taking. Yeah, so that's fun. It's just kind of take what you want, man. Like everything, excess, more.
Yeah.
The cultural reference here is just so low hanging fruit, though, right? Like,
Yeah,
LaVey,
I was gonna jump
like
on that.
Anton LaVey, right? Oh, you take it, Christian, take it.
No, you go for it. It's all yours.
I was just saying, like, if you guys know, like, Anton LaVey is the founder of the Satanic Church.
Yeah, LaVeyan Satanism.
Yeah, so there's no hiding it there, except for they changed an E to an A, or an A to an E.
Even Sanctifer is almost like Lucifer, sanctified. Like Sanctifer LaVey is very low hanging fruit. The thing about LaVeyan Satanism specifically too is like philosophically they're all about like hedonism. It's not really like Satan worship. It's more like atheism that emphasizes human potential and human pursuit of hedonism, self-glorification. So there is like a Slaaneshi tie there, but
yeah,
it's like you said, low hanging fruit. All right, sensation without limitations. Slaanesh watches with ravenous delight as the universe shudders under the weight of fleeting pleasures. Every moment of bliss, whether the joy of new life, the triumph of military strategy, the embrace of a lover, or the sweet relief of survival, whispers its name. These indulgences are but appetizers for the Prince of Excess, tantalizing glimpses of the boundless ecstasy that awaits. But they're not enough. Slaanesh craves more, always more, constantly seeking to stretch the limits of sensation beyond the wildest dreams of mortals. The birth of a new experience is never just a moment for Slaanesh. It is a call to tear open the universe itself. From its gleaming palace in the realm of chaos, the Lord of Excess orchestrates the galaxy, driving beings towards new heights of indulgence. Every breath is a chance to taste a new flavor, every scream on the battlefields of symphony of torment and ecstasy. Slaanesh's hunger knows no boundaries, no limitations, as it contorts reality itself, squeezing every last drop of pleasure from existence. Mortal devotees, driven by the insatiable thirst for greater pleasure, strive to emulate their master. In every corner of the galaxy, they craft new delights, whether in the carnal act of twisted union or through artistic creation so profound they bring the beholder to tears. But these are mere toys compared to the true excesses that await in the realms of chaos. Their entire legions of space marines are reduced to ash, entire worlds annihilated in a single pulse, and all the while Slaanesh laughs, its desires ever expanding, ever unfulfilled, as it bends reality to its will in pursuit of the ultimate pleasure. Well, of course my people love me. Only the insane would consider otherwise. Accelerate work on the Grand Hall of Statuary, so all may adore me, even when I am not with them. Walash Prexity, planetary governor of Prexity 7.
Yeah. Sensations without limitations.
A word
Have
we
you-
haven't. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you.
I was gonna say a word we haven't used a lot in this, but this quote reminds me of his vanity too. Like Slaanesh is very much appeals to vanity.
Yeah, we definitely hit hard on
a-
that kind of in the Emperor's Children episode, but yeah, not so much on this one.
The vanity part really reminds me of, it keeps coming up in this episode. I keep thinking of, if you've seen 300 and you look at what the fuck's his name? Xerxes? Is it Xerxes? Yeah. That dude's Slaanesh all over. Come on.
Yeah.
He's just so vain, and you're just like, yeah, we know
Full
where
of
you
himself.
fell.
Yeah.
That guy definitely has his chode pierced, without a doubt.
Oh,
Well, see
100%.
the rest of them?
Yeah.
Also not an accurate depiction of him, but yes.
I thought that was a documentary.
Where's James? James and I
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
have a conversation.
Yeah, this one makes sense. All of these are so easy to fall to. It's a lot harder to convince somebody to follow corn, I feel like. You get crazy psychopaths out there, but like your average person, you're not going to be able to convince them to go murder somebody, but you might be able to convince them to skydive with you and gain this new kind of thrill-seeking mindset.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Join me.
right?
Come on. Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
Or do heroin while you skydive. And
Might as well just do it once.
Really, yeah. It's like people. I think people gravitate to corn, and people like corn, and corn is badass and stuff. But in real life, like you said, Mark, most people aren't out there just killing people for the sake of killing people, for the joy, the thrill of killing people.
Yeah.
That's not most people. Most people, it's the subtler pleasures that they get addicted to, right? Too much video games. It's just too much fast food. Like, really, we are a culture of excess. So I think it's very easy to fall into this trap.
Do you guys think that there's a stigma that comes with playing like a Slaaneshi army or something? Like, they're so cool. The models are so rad. Like, they're great. And like, I would hate for this to be a real thing where like you want to play that army and you want to buy those models and stuff, but you feel like people are just going to look at you like, oh, you like the sex stuff on the plastic, eh?
You're a pervert.
Like, yeah. Do you like, honestly, in chat, jump on this too. Like, and guys, if you're listening to this, jump on our Discord. Like, please get at us with some answers here, some insight. Like, do you feel like, yeah, like Jack's Carnage mentions that there's, maybe like some sense of, weird possible like sexual oppression here, in the sense that like those models are cool, that army is rad, Emperor's Children, but then you just kind of get labeled as like, you're the Slaanesh guy, huh? You all right, that's the Slaanesh chick that plays, like it feels so overt in its like sexualization, its hedonism and stuff, that like it's almost you're almost ashamed to want to play it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I really hope I am wrong in this, that there are no stigmas when it comes to wanting to play this army, but maybe there are.
Like, no, here's a kind of good, let's put an example in front of us. You're a 25-year-old guy and you're playing Slaanesh in your local hobby shop, and up walks a 16-year-old kid to your table, and all of a sudden things get a little weird. You're looking at this 16-year-old kid, and you're looking at this tit that you painted on a model, and you're talking about how you want to murder rape him. Like, things get a little weird at that gaming table. So, I think there's a time and place for everything. And also, man, you can get away with a lot if you just take care of yourself. let's get another example out there. If you look like you should be a Nurgle player and you're playing Slaanesh, we start to wonder about you. You know, maybe there is a little bit of a vibe there that needs to be checked. But man, if you're a handsome looking guy like either of you two, I think you get away with playing Slaanesh because you're not like, you know, you're not like greasy and like fanging over people like, have you guys ever seen Pink? Like,
Fun fact, I am very greasy, Mark. You just haven't touched me lately.
it's been
I am
years. since
coated
I've
in
touched
grease
you.
for this episode.
It's been years. Yeah, I think it's
I do.
tight.
Yeah, and like I think time and place for everything, and also like how you carry yourself would matter a lot in that situation for sure.
To me,
something to be aware of.
Yeah, I think it'd be just incessant jokes. Like, again, this overemphasis on the sex thing of Slaanesh. I really think the models have actually gotten pretty PG. Everything about Slaanesh has actually gotten pretty PG in recent years. If you look at the old demonettes, what they used to look like compared to now, for example, or these new Emperor's Children models are even pretty toned down, I feel like, compared to what, you know, some of the art depicts. So maybe in the past that was more a thing. Nowadays I wouldn't see it, but again, I just think it would just get tiring of all the sex jokes all the time. Kind of like orcs, you know, the wah thing. Like,
Sure.
cool, it's fun the first couple times, but
Yeah. I they definitely have toned down, I think, the sex vibe, but like the horror's still there. Like look at the fucking, what is it? The Infernal and Rapturous. That's the one that's playing the
strings.
harp.
Yeah.
That's the guy's like you know, veins and stuff. Amazing. That is one of the
Yeah.
coolest models, I think, in that line.
Oh no,
So
absolutely.
good.
That's one of my favorite models, period. Just like conceptually is horrifying, but like very like I can't think of a better depiction of Slaanesh.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, those listeners out there, guys, just like play what you want, man. You know what? Fuck them. Like play whatever you think is.
But don't literally do
coolest.
that to your models. You'll go to jail.
Yeah. Okay, I meant you know what I meant.
The naysayers.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're absolutely. Please, the naysayers. Like just play what you fuck.
But also don't do that to them either, because you'll also go to jail. But
yeah, and never paint
Warhammer
your
legal.
models with bodily fluids. We've learned don't use your blood to paint them, and with Slaanesh, don't use other bodily fluids.
No
Don't
poop minis.
do it.
No
There's
poop
better
minis.
ways to paint minis.
Now, however, this I'm a little side tangent. I have a Soulblight Gravelords army, so I have like vampire counts in AOS, and one of my favorite armies of all time. And the first time I was like building them, I was using an X-Acto knife, and I cut my thumb, and I was like, "Gosh, damn it!" And I was like, "Well, hang on now, like they're vampires." And I previously in that year I was doing some artwork, and I like my little signature on the artwork was like a bloody thumbprint because I just thought it was funny. So every single vampire character in my model range, this is really just way to just TMI here, but like happens to have a little blood stain of mine under the base. Every single Soulblight Gravelords model, I'm not kidding, I swear to you. And because I was like, oh man, fuck, I cut myself. Well, all right, here we go. Bloop, 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 and put it all underneath every single one. Yeah. So every single one has a little blood print that's probably like crusted off by now, but there you go. Too much information.
I'm disturbed at the number of people that bleed on their models. We actually just talked about our friend of ours that bled on their orcs, and then people who do it with their corn models. Like,
yeah,
you are not alone in this, and people should stop. Let's not.
Yeah, you're all filthy Nurgle players. You're creating biohazards.
Yeah, I'm not encouraging it at all. I'm not encouraging it, but I'm just saying that.
But you won't stop either.
Now he's addicted. Have you read Mark? What's the Emperor's Children book? The Horus Heresy.
Fulgrim.
Yep. Yes.
Suck it like you mean it.
Have you read Fulgrim yet, Court?
No. That I got really intrigued though when we did the episode. I was like, ooh, kind of want to read that.
Go give that a read, and you'll learn about painting with bodily fluids in there. Everything you'll ever want to know.
That's right. We covered that a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the next philosophy: pleasure, obsession, and excess. And I got a quote: Mere killing should never have been enough. How much more intense is the feeling of inhaling the mist created when you vibrate a foe's body until he vaporizes? You ever vibrate a foe's body till he vaporizes? It's fuck.
Every night, baby.
Oh, got it. Yep. How much more completely have you explored a person, all a person can offer, that when you breathe them into yourself, leaving only the memory of them still being a part of this world? Okay, so this guy just vaporized somebody and sniffed them. And this is Giliax, the Sound Warden, Warp Smith to the Emperor's Children. Fun new drug. All the kids are trying it.
I love it when they combine like things. Like obviously that's a reference to cocaine and music. Like just I just melted you with my sounds and I'm gonna snort you. Like
the Imperium's unyielding demands of restraint and denial bind its citizens in chains of duty and suffering, ensuring that every moment is consumed by labor, prayer, and punishment. They believe that a mind free to wander will inevitably succumb to the temptations of Slaanesh's desires, leaving it vulnerable to the taint of chaos. Yet, in the harsh, unrelenting life, where each flicker of joy is extinguished before it can fully bloom, there lies a simmering danger. For in the darkest corners of this imposed order, the faintest whispers of indulgence can ignite a soul's deepest, most forbidding longings, a call to embrace of Slaanesh. In the relentless grind of survival, the promise of a single fleeting pleasure can become a sanctuary from a suffocating weight of duty, a momentary escape from the suffering of the prince of pleasure's most seductive lure. Those yearning for relief from ceaseless struggle will find it in his intoxicating excess. It is not always the poor and downtrodden who fall into his embrace. The powerful, too, are seduced by the endless possibilities of hedonism. Luxury, once tested, breeds obsession. Exquisite foods, rare fragrances, and forbidden performances become not mere pleasures, but obsessions, pushing those who indulge further down the path of damnation. But the allure of Slaanesh is not limited to the privileged few. Even those without access to wealth or status can find themselves devoured by desire. A mind starved of pleasure can fixate on the most mundane sensations, turning the simplest acts into an all-consuming obsession. Whether it's the crackle of wood in the fire or a taste of freshly cut fingernails, indulgence becomes a matter of opportunity. Num, 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 num. Yet for those bold enough to delve deeper into the obsession, Slaanesh offers even darker temptations. The ability to feast on the memories of others, to distill fear into a perfect drink, or to experience pain and pleasure in ways beyond mortal comprehension. All it takes is a soul willing to be consumed by desire, and the rewards of Slaanesh or of excess await, endless and intoxicating. Another quote from Renegade Lord of Arden, and this is Tyrell. Take care lest your protests become tiresome. I have asked for so little. Anyone who think that I have asked you to sacrifice yourselves and your sons, and yet in Slaanesh's boundless and pleasing mercy, I have only asked for your daughters. Surely you would not deny me of my small enjoyments. Nice. Fun guy, that guy. I'm sure. Real fun parties he throws. Very Epstein vibes he has. A real party guy.
Exterminatus is the only answer there.
There you go.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me that you're talking about is obsession. People often joke about like OCD and stuff, but like sometimes like the whole thing about OCD is it's an obsessive compulsive disorder. And that's like for some people is like life ruining because they become so obsessed with like their ritual or whatever thing it is that triggers their responses. Yeah, like I obviously this isn't necessarily an OCD thing, but like you think of how Lucius the Eternal was like scarring up his face and he's just like obsessed with like cutting himself, right? Like that's his ritual, that's his thing that he became obsessed with. Yeah, and you can imagine like any kind of like obsessive behavior, hair pulling, right? Plucking out your hairs until suddenly you're like balding and there's almost nothing left. Like all the ways, skin picking, for example, where you're like covered in open weeping sores because you're constantly just picking at your flesh. Again, like getting away from the sex stuff, like anything, obsessive that you can get taken in by can be, and again, not just personal things, those are just body horror things, but there's other things to obsess over, like Warhammer, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're not connecting with this episode, I think you're lying to yourself in some ways. Truly.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into everybody's favorite topic, addiction, shall we? So, when Slaanesh tore a rift in reality with its arrival, it was an entity born from pure, unquenchable hunger. The Dark Prince feasted on the souls of billions of Aeldari, savoring their final, desperate moments of horror as they were consumed by its endless, torturous form. This devouring of its creators was a pleasure beyond mortal comprehension, and from that moment, the Prince of Excess sought only greater indulgence. The sensation of consuming souls became an addiction, a hunger that could never be satisfied, driving Slaanesh to ever greater feats of excess and torment. Okay, I just want to pause real quick there. I think we talked a little bit about previously when I said I think it's really cool that the birth happened, and upon that birth, the souls were consumed by Slaanesh. So now there's this constant need because of that. Like if that hadn't happened, it's this almost catch-22. But if like it hadn't happened, would Slaanesh be constantly having this insatiable desire for souls and needing that, and especially Aeldari?
Yeah, that super big bump the very first time, and just was like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Anything less is not as satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. So but you'll never have that many Eldar souls concentrated and worshiping you like that ever again. But like, it doesn't change the fact that you're obsessed with chasing that high.
Yeah. So while it was a big like bump, like you said, it was like that hit, that rush, that thing that gave strength to Slaanesh. It also is part of its weakness because now it's just constantly trying to get more. Anyways, so Slaanesh delights in suffering, but not in the simple way that mortal beings might imagine. The Lord of Excess, a being of twisted complexity, craves sensation in its most extreme forms. It compels its followers, both mortal and demonic, to push the boundaries of their desires, turning each act of indulgence into a moment of glorious gratification. Whether it's the rapture of pride, the ecstasy of pleasure, or the blissful agony of obsession, Slaanesh fuels these cravings and rewards those who seek to feed them. Yet in its wicked generosity, it also creates a cruel irony. With each indulgence, the hunger grows, and the craving for more becomes an unbreakable chain. In its insatiable pursuit of pleasure, Slaanesh has woven itself into the fabric of its followers. Every sensation, every desire becomes a shared experience between the Dark Prince and those who serve it. The bolter recoil that slams into a Chaos Marine's shoulder is a lover's touch. The sweet release of a drug-induced high becomes a feast for Slaanesh's insatiable appetite. Even the action of the other Chaos gods serve to feed the prince's eternal hunger. Khorne's warriors taste glory, Tzeentch's spies savor their schemes, and Nurgle's survivors bask in the indulgence of comfort. Each act of devotion, no matter how vile, adds to the dark tapestry of sensation that sustains Slaanesh, driving it and its followers into ever deeper excess. We mentioned a little bit in the Tzeentch episode, like I posed the question, does Tzeentch get satisfaction or praise when other worshippers of other chaos gods do deeds? Like a Khorne berserker somehow sneaks up behind a platoon of guard, and in that sneakiness, in that trickery or something, murders them. Like is Tzeentch a little bit like, ooh, got a little tickle there, And I think this kind of talks about that too. And I love that they all just unknowingly kind of serve themselves, and one act of the other still feeds, one of the other chaos gods too, because it's unavoidable. I think
Yeah.
every single one of them is tied to another in some unavoidable way.
Yeah, we've talked kind of about how what would happen if, all the living life forms in the materium vanished. What would happen to the dark gods if they had nothing to feast off of? But like
Mm.
at this point, they're kind of self-sufficient, like you kind of mentioned, like we kind of were reading, where at this point, everything that Khorne does, his lust for battle. Well, I just said the word lust there. Slaanesh is now being fed. Like they're this self-sustaining
Mhm.
machine now, almost between
Yeah.
the four of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right.
Yeah, like that. Their momentum helps perpetuate more, and like it's all four gods like a wheel, right? Like now that the wheel's in motion, like
Well, and can you do an action without? Can you do a simple action without multiple chaos gods being served? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think you
yeah, it'd be
could.
Maybe, I don't know. Could you?
I think
How?
man, now I have to come up with the scenarios. I think it's possible, but harder to do. Like you could.
Got him.
gotcha, bitch. Yeah, Now, when we talk about the warp and the emotions and stuff, we often like look at it from like the human lens, or even Eldar in this episode. But man, there must be all types of Xenos out there that don't have the same emotional spectrum that we do, and therefore, when they might do a specific act that when we do, it feeds both gods because we feel two distinct kind of emotions. They might only feel that one. So that's kind of another little thing too. I was thinking like the next episode up is a Gork and Mork episode. And like, what emotion feeds them? Like, okay, so and then I got thinking like, well, what emotions do orcs even have? And it appears they only have being brutal or being cunning are kind of their emotions. So you can kind of almost go that route with the thinking there.
Yeah. And I would almost make a cutout too for our other things intercepting the power of your emotion. So let's say when you are obsessed with the emperor as your god, does that nullify any pleasure that like Slaanesh would get from that kind of behavior, because it's all being channeled into something else? Something else is catching that fuel, let's say, before it even gets to the chaos gods. And can the chaos gods do that against each other, right? Like, are you more proud that you killed the enemy champion, or are you so devoted to Khorne that it kind of like intercepts any kind of Slaanesh-y benefit? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
You're not a warp magician?
Yeah. I don't have my degree in warpology.
That's a great question, though.
Yeah.
But these are the things that I don't think there should be an answer. I think we should all be able to speculate and like, well, maybe it is like this. Well, maybe it's like that.
Yeah.
Don't write it in a freaking book. All right. Let's get into the Dark Prince's realm. I prepared to enter his realm, expecting to encounter guardians who would seek to tear into me with talons and fangs. At the last, I assumed I would find bastions to bar my progress. I found none. The land before me was open and pristine. Its fields shimmered like gold, and its forests bore fruits of sapphires and emeralds. I took a step in, and this place instantly knew I was lost, just as surely as if I had been impaled on a debtor's spike. From the heretical tome, The Confessions of Cardinal Wolgalta. Right away, that's really cool that Slaanesh's realm is inviting. It's not guarded. It's not something you have to break into. If anything, Slaanesh is like, no, come in by all means.
Come on in.
Yeah. I got everything you need right here. All right. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince of Excess, is a god like no other. It does not guard its domain with cold exclusion. Instead, it welcomes all who dare to enter, tempting them with pleasures beyond imagination. The realm of Slaanesh, a landscape of shimmering decadence, stands at the heart of the Dark Prince's empire, encircled by concentric rings of temptation. Each ring is a test, a realm of indulgence that seduces the weak and the strong alike, drawing them deeper into its embrace. The path to Slaanesh's palace is a labyrinth of lust, desire, and decadence, where every corner offers a new, forbidden pleasure. The palace of pleasure itself is a vision of sinful beauty, a glittering monument to excess. Around it swirl the lost souls of the damned, bodies turned to statues or devoured by the land, consumed by the temptations they could not resist. In the paradise of indulgence, every moment is an opportunity for weakness, and Slaanesh delights in every fall. Temptation is the weapon of choice, a tool far deadlier than any blade. It is a force that breaks the will and leads even the strongest hearts to crumble beneath its weight. For those who wander too far, there is no escape. The realm devours them, body and soul, in its endless feast. Slaanesh watches as these poor souls struggle, its gaze filled with amusement. Every step of resistance is a fleeting moment of entertainment for the Dark Prince, knowing full well that they will eventually break. Those few who dare to venture to the outer walls of the palace of pleasure might catch a glimpse of their god, a reward for their fleeting defiance. But such moments are rare, and those who stand before the palace find themselves undone by its overwhelming allure. None have ever entered without Slaanesh's expressed desire. The moment they see the god's perfection, they fall. Once within the palace, there is no turning back. The Prince of Excess has claimed their mind, body, and soul. The perfection of Slaanesh is too intoxicating, too overwhelming for mortals to resist. Every worshipper becomes another offering, another soul to feed the endless hunger of the Dark Prince. Here in the Palace of Pleasure, Slaanesh reigns supreme, its power nourished by the cravings, indulgences, and damnation of all who enter its realm. It is a place of boundless excess where nothing is too much and everything is consumed.
I like what Liar says. You could check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's
You guys
like
get that reference though, right?
No, what is that?
Hotel California.
Oh,
The
okay,
Eagles.
sure.
Yeah. That's why I
Look at
put
this
guitar
music
solo
nerd over
kicks
here.
in. No, liar just boom, alley oop. Got it. It's like one
Finished it.
punch. Yeah.
Oh man, the Eagles. So the first of these 6 realms or areas is the excess of riches. The ecclesiarchy, ever the purveyor of caution, spins tales of madness and corruption to warn their flock of the dangerous allure of temptation. These stories, often feared by fevered delirium or intoxicating whispers of the drugged, serve as grim fables meant to dissuade the simple-minded from dreams of forbidden pleasures. The truth of these accounts, whether grounded in reality or fueled it by madness, matters little. The stories of the Dark Prince's domain, tales of glittering jewels and insatiable lust, serve as power deterrents, warning against the heady promise of excess. Within the first ring of Slaanesh's realm, the air shimmers with an intoxicating beauty. The golden day slips into an endless, seductive twilight where the heavens are alive with diamonds, tantalizingly out of reach. The temptation is irresistible. Many try to claim the jewels from themselves, reaching higher and higher, obviously to the peril of them all around them. Climbing trees of living gold, they leap in desperate bids to seize their prize, only to plummet back to the earth, their bodies broken, their souls betrayed. Idiots. In their final moments, they see nothing but glittering jewels and fleeting joy that costs them everything. The scholars of the ruinous powers describe this treacherous domain as a playground for greed, where every gust of wind beckons the weary traveler deeper into the web of seduction. The air itself whispers of treasures untold, golden trees, shimmering grass, mountains aglow with wealth. In this realm where every step is a promise of indulgence, where no hunger can be unsatisfied, yet for all its beauty, the land is a trap, designed to draw out the basest desires and consume all who fall prey to it, body and soul. At the threshold of the palace of pleasure, the streets are paved with ruby and emerald, a very path itself gleaming with temptation. Gemstones and golden nuggets lie scattered, waiting for the unwary to take them. to fill their pockets, their sleeves, their very beings with riches. Yet for those foolish enough to be consumed by the treasure, the path becomes their tomb. For hidden beneath the glittering facade lies the grim remains of those who succumbed to their greed, bones buried beneath the weight of their desires. They died smiling, their lust for more, their final bitter indulgence. That's fucking a cool scene, man. Like, you know, just the illusions and the tricks that Slaanesh plays to get you. You think you see this diamond road, these sapphire road. You go down to pick it up, and it's shiny. It's so beautiful, and you can't look away. And days go by, and you can't look away, and then you starve to death. And only in your final moment does your vision clear. And that sapphire, that gem you were holding, was actually just the remains of another human skull.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like if you're, you know, picking up every piece of gold you see on the street and like, oh, here's another one, and here's another one. And you keep like filling your pockets and your pant legs. And like you're so weighed down by it that you can't even move anymore. But you're not dropping.
Damn you, Skyrim!
You can't let any of it go.
Over encumbered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys falling here?
Oh yeah.
Who's falling in this one?
I'm already done.
You're done?
I'm out.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Christian's out.
I'm a sucker for shiny rocks. I love my shiny metals. And
Okay.
precious stones.
Cool.
I can assure you I made it past this one. Good old Panamanian chicken farmer Mark, he's not one for riches.
Yeah,
simple.
I'm with you. Mark and I are walking hand in hand past this one. And hey, where's Christian?
I think I know
shit, there
we're
he
gonna
is. He's
fall
climbing
to.
that tree. Yeah. Yeah.
And he jumps to his death.
Chat, where are you at?
Guy.
Report in. Are you guys with us? Are you still hanging in the
in
the palace, or are you guys falling temptation to this realm here? Here we go.
Really quick too before we move to the next ring. Very much all of this is drawn heavily from Dante's Inferno's versions of hell. In that case, each kind of ring of hell is like a punishment that kind of fits the sin. But in this version of it, these concentric rings are like more a temptation. But that's obviously very much the inspiration for this.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mark and I are walking. We're leaving Christian behind on this. Sorry, bud. All right, we're now entering
bone jewels.
We're entering the new realm. Yeah, the bone jewels. Although I did just picture you just like putting all these in like cargo pants, and you're just so weighed down that you just can't move.
I'll get you guys in a sec. I'll catch up to you. Just
yeah, I'm coming. All right. Excess of sustenance. Okay. Those who dare venture into the realm of Slaanesh past the golden fields are drawn further into the abyss of indulgence. They enter a lake so vast that the shores seem deeper, as the shores seem to disappear into the very fabric of reality. The waters shimmer with a liquid so rich, so potent, it might as well be the finest wine distilled into the very essence of pleasure. It calls to all who approach it, sweet, intoxicating, and irresistible. Those who arrive here, seeking to maintain control, are quickly undone. Without cups or vessels, they fall upon the waters, lapping directly from the lake, sinking deeper into intoxication and oblivion, never to surface again. For those who manage to tear their gaze from the liquid's pull, the islands beckon with promise of excess. These pale, unearthly islands are the perches of giants, towering figures who hold banquets fit for gods, rich breads, exotic fruits, and meats that gleam in the dim light of this unholy realm lie in abundance. The bridges to these islands are perilous, but driven by an all-consuming hunger, the lost souls plunge into the depths, risking everything for a taste of what lies beyond the water. The few who succeed in reaching the islands are greeted with a reward beyond imagining. Each bite is a revelation. The food is more sumptuous, more exquisite than anything the mortal mind could conceive. each morsel sending waves of pleasure coursing through the body. But as the feast grows, so does the hunger. The wayward souls gorge themselves, devouring faster and faster, blind to the grotesque truth hidden within the feast. The meat, tender and rich, is the flesh of those who came before them, those whose bodies have been consumed by their own insatiable lust.
Oh, yes.
Yet the indulgence drives them ever onward, each bite more decadent, more corrupting than the last. Their bodies, already on the verge of collapse, continue to demand more. They gorge until they can consume no more, their form crumbling into a pile of gluttonous excess. They lie there spent, their souls devoured by the indulgence they could not resist. And as they collapse, the feast continues, waiting for the next soul to fall prey to the insatiable hunger that Slaanesh has awakened within them, each feeding the cycle of excess, pleasure, and corruption that knows no end. Oh, man. It's so beautiful. Like, every single one of these is painted so beautifully and elegantly that you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds really nice. And then you're like, yeah, that meat's pretty good, huh? Too bad it's your buddy Dave who came before us,
No.
No, he tastes so good. Oh, God.
Yeah, and you're like crying while you do it because it's just so good. You can't stop. It's not like you're suddenly grossed out by it. You're like, Dave tasted pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine. I wonder if he's listening. His name's Billy. He's a friend at the game store we play at. And he told us the story the other day. And I know he's not lying just because of his character, but he told us a story of a few years ago. He talked to his dad, and his dad was like, hey, you remember, I don't remember the dog's name, but he's like, do you remember when you had that dog when you were little? And
I already don't like
Billy
going.
Billy's Korean, and he always talks about Korean food and Korean culture, and he's just so he like makes fun of it in a funny way, but he also celebrates it in this wonderful way. And he was like, yeah, I remember, I'm just gonna say Fifi, it probably wasn't. And he's like, do you remember when Fifi went to go live with somebody else because they weren't feeling good? And he's like, yeah. Do you remember the dinner we had later that week? No. His dad told him that the dog was sick or something. And I'm not kidding. And I'll have him tell it at some point, maybe. But like, the dog died. And
that's what happens when you eat something.
No, natural causes, I think, or something, but they didn't want to waste it, so they literally cooked this dog and fed it to Billy and his sister, and they didn't know for years until the dad like recently told him, and he was like, "I'm so glad they didn't tell me when I was a kid."
Horrified. Yeah. I ate my pet bunny growing up because I didn't take care of it, and then my German grandpa made a soup out of it and fed it to me. So, we've all eaten. Yeah. We've all eaten a pet before in our time. And it is traumatizing. I'll tell you that much. You get a little weird from it, a little twitchy, but
wow,
you get over it.
All right.
But, a dog is very different than a fucking rabbit, and I eat my own pet chickens now all the time. So the full circle of murder is
complete until your chickens get you.
There's a coup happening. There's an uprising.
Oh shit!
All right, where are we at, gentlemen? Are we?
Hold on, before we move from this.
Oh yeah.
This place. I wonder too if this would be like where something like alcoholism might reside, right? I was just thinking with the liquids. Yeah, I mean, there's that whole thing of like genuine thirst, like if you're actually just super thirsty, like if you're trapped in the desert and you just need water. But I think there's also the like excessive wine, the drinking, liquids, energy drinks in some people's cases. But I'm not naming names, but We know who you
After
are.
a couple millennia, Christian crawled out of the first excess of riches, only to fall into the
Into the
excess
swamp
of
of
monster
energy drink.
energy drinks. Poor guy. Although I think I'm still walking on. I'm not a glutton for food. Maybe once upon a time, but not so much nowadays. Now, if I eat a burger, I'm like, I gotta go fucking work out. So I'm carrying on.
Are you surviving this court?
I think so. I think this one
Yeah.
definitely has more of a pull to me, but
No,
I think
Court.
I'm
I grab your hand more
Okay.
firmly. Come with me, buddy.
Whoa.
Come.
He's
Oh.
sitting there. He's contemplating for a minute. He's like, maybe I do
A little
like it
bit.
here.
a little
Yeah.
bit
No,
because
it's
it does
fine.
sound inviting, but I think I'm good. Um, if I remember correctly, if you guys want a good visual image of what this probably actually looks like after the self-realization of what you're eating and stuff, go on YouTube and watch Denis Villeneuve's short film Next Floor. Denis Villeneuve is probably most popular for directing Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Enemy, Arrival. Go watch Next Floor. It is a short film, and there's a feast, and it is disgusting. There you go.
Is that prison movie or whatever where they're in a prison?
No, it's just a short
Okay.
film. It's very artistic. I think I don't know if there's much dialogue in it. I've seen it once. It was a while ago.
Okay. Interesting.
Just on the same topic of food movies, have you seen The Menu?
Oh yeah.
No, I've heard of it though. I know about it.
That one's a bit of a weird one too. You should probably go check that out while we're talking about esoteric food movies. And again, one more point too before we move off of this. There's kind of two groups of people when it comes to food. And I know this because my wife and I are like total opposites. Like, to me, food is fuel, and it's like I'm more of a quantity over quality. Like, it just is the thing I do to get to the next thing. Like, I'm not wasting time spending hours to prep this like sumptuous meal. I just get it in me and I got to keep moving. And my wife is all about like tasting food from all over the world, and like she won't even like darken the door of a restaurant that's not good enough. Like,
Darken the door of a restaurant.
Yeah, like she,
what a saying.
She's very selective around food and like what she's willing to eat or try. So yeah, I find there's kind of two types of people in the world, and both of those can lead to excess, right? Like I said myself, quantity over quality, but yeah,
good point.
All right, let's move into the next ring. The excess of bodily delights. There's no greater gateway.
I let go of Court's hand quickly. I let go.
No, Mark, don't run.
Cool. You ended up in there before you even knew it. There's no greater gateway to corruption.
We make eye contact.
The allure of the flesh. And Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, knows this truth all too well. The third ring of its realm is a playground for the senses, a place where the mind and body are overwhelmed by indulgence. Rich fields of silky grasses beckon with their soft textures, illuminated by golden hue, that feels both inviting and suffocating. Within this realm, seductive visions flicker like fragments of forgotten dreams, pulling travelers deeper into the maze of pleasure and sin. Each turn offers a new tableau of decadence, more twisted, more intoxicating than the last, luring the unwary with promises of unimaginable satisfaction. Unlike the crude, tawdry delights of the underhives or shadowy corners of hive spires, Slaanesh's domain offers pleasures beyond mortal comprehension. Demon and mortal flesh twist and entwine until they become one, bodies so impossibly beautiful they are difficult to look at, yet impossible to look away from. It is a world where resisting the temptations that coil around you is a cruel joke, for the pull is too strong, too pleasurable to ignore. Even the very air hums with desire, an intoxicating musk that wraps itself around every breath, filling the soul with longing that cannot be quenched. Every touch becomes an overwhelming sensation, every breath a sweet intoxication. The air shimmers with the perfume of pleasure, and the mortal's flesh becomes hypersensitive to the slightest caress. They are no longer aware of their surroundings, lost in the haze of yearning and indulgence. The incense burning in braziers calls forth memories of past liaisons, luring them further into the spiral of pleasure and corruption. The mortal mind is left open, a willing vessel for whatever temptation Slaanesh desires to pour into it. And then the demonettes arrive. Like vultures circling their prey, their movements are a symphony of sensuality, their flesh soft and inviting, their kisses razor sharp, their embraces a deadly promise. Each touch, each caress pushes the mortal deeper into the abyss, stripping away any last shred of resistance. Here in the realm of Slaanesh, indulgence becomes an inescapable fate, a pleasure so intoxicating it consumes all who enter, body and soul, until there's nothing left but devotion to the Dark Prince and the endless pursuit of excess.
Oof. Yeah, I like start by whispering just like, I got a wife, I got a daughter, I got a wife, I got a daughter. But I don't think I would last very long in this realm. I think eventually I go for them titties.
Sweet demon titties.
What do you do?
I think
You know?
I think most of the chat was gone too. They're like, oh man, I think I'm out.
Yeah.
Um,
Hand check.
Judging by the comments all through this episode, I would guarantee almost everyone in the chat's
Yeah.
already screwed. I will say, and obviously, like the sexual satisfaction is a very big part of this, but I wonder also, like, it's bodily delights. So yes, there's the sex part, but also like any sensation. And I would even expand it to even like thrill seeking behavior. So kind of speaking to those like adrenaline junkies and guys who like, or anyone who like is, you know, that rush they get when they do something scary or whatever it is. I think it's, so when you expand it to that degree too, it's not just the porn addled minds of the masses. It's also like, yeah, those thrill seekers and other behaviors.
Is it comfort as well too? Like kind of getting this vibe here.
There is another realm that is
Okay.
probably more to comfort, although comfort
Okay.
certainly is part of this, right? Again, that the touch, the sense of touch.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it depends on what kind of comfort you're looking for. Because there's another one that's more like slothful.
Okay.
But that's down another ring, not to get ahead of ourselves here. But
Yeah.
let's marinate in the juices of this ring here for a second.
Yeah, like
I will
one thing we mentioned in this one is the incense so is burning and like bodily delight, like, you know, you smoke a little weed and you get a nice little body high, is that kind of would fit into this realm. You know, you smoke a little weed and fuck a demonette.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most drugs, again, like that's the thing. I'm trying to expand the idea of bodily delight. I think of like anything that affects your senses, your smell, your touch, your taste. In this case, not so much food, but the taste of flesh. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I don't like in some of these, and I know it's just kind of the allure and how we're being absolute on some of them, but it'll say something like, it consumes all who enter. Like all those who enter this are done. Like, well, then why are there fucking more of these like realms? Like, because that doesn't make sense. Like, someone had to make it past this, and someone did. I think we've talked about it at some point.
No,
but,
it consumes all who enter.
You're gonna need
$5
on Patreon to visualize to see what Christian just did.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you don't enter anyone, then you are safe. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Please stop. Well, where'd we land? I think I'm staying here, boys. I got a little weed, got a little woman. Court,
gone.
Carrying on.
If I'm not gone at this one, the next one's taking me. But I think I might be gone at this one. But the next one's probably just like, oh, I'm toast.
Let's try out. Well, I think you picked the right one by choosing the excess of adoration. You're such a good little boy, Court. We love you. You're valued. Are you in heaven right now? He is. He wants more.
Say more.
Okay,
Words of affirmation.
like your sideburns and your tattoos. Fucking killing it.
Yes. I feel so powerful now.
We're gonna get you in hell one of these ways. Just you wait. This might be it. In the galaxy's endless wars and struggle for dominance, glory is the sweetest drug, a narcotic more intoxicating than any other. Heroes rise on a wave of adoration, their names shouted from the mouths of thousands as statues are raised in their honor, and the blood of victory is celebrated with lavish feasts. For those who taste this nectar, the hunger only grows, the need for more glory, more praise, more adulation consumes them, and the whispers of Slaanesh slither into their hearts. A hero once exalted begins to fear the fleeting nature of fame and the possibility of failure and the crushing weight of a reputation left in tatters. Here, in the shadows of their ambitions, the path of damnation is laid. The fourth circle of Slaanesh's realm is where the ambitious and powerful find themselves, caught in the clutches of their own desires. For some reason, the dream is sweet. Mass crowds chanting your name, court, court, court. Statues immortalizing his every victory, their power and influence growing beyond measure. Governors imagine themselves ruling entire star systems, their every command obeyed without question. These visions, tantalizing and beautiful, are designed to ensnare. They're crafted to feel so real, so within reach, that the dreamer cannot help but sink deeper into them, captivated by the promise of eternal glory. The allure is undeniable, and for many, the dream is indistinguishable from reality. A soldier who has seen others rise to prominence believes in the possibility of his own elevation, while the governor who has tasted power feels the endless expansion of their own rule within their grasp. These illusions are rooted in truth, drawn from the deepest desires of those who seek to carve their names into history. The visions are not mere fantasies, but reflections of ambitions nurtured over lifetimes. It is perfect deception, glory, power, and control offered in exchange for the soul's submission. Yet for those few who doubt, who question the authenticity of the dreams, the illusion shatters in an instant. A flash of cold, suffocating darkness reveals the truth beneath the gilded promises. A vast plain of soot and charred remains where the bodies of millions, still lost in their delusions, lie forgotten and crushed. In that fleeting moment, the truth is exposed. The unending cycle of desire and consumption, the endless hunger for more. And then, as quickly as it came, the vision fades, and the victim is thrust into the traps of the next circle, where the dark prince temptations wait to claim them. Oh, yeah. This is a tough one, man. It's hard not to want to be liked and feel praise and, tough one for sure. I think if I didn't fall in the last one, here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say the same. Like, I could, if I got past the greed one, for sure, this is where I'm done next. It's interesting not to get too preachy or anything. Very much strong social media vibes, right? Like, this pretty much defines the era that we live in around social media, like chasing those likes, wanting to be liked and adored by the masses, and also how fleeting it is, right? Like, great, you got your 15 minutes, get out of here, on to the next person, right? And then that desperation of trying to claw back your followers and like just getting sucked into that cycle. And this is why, like, I think like Slaanesh is much more powerful in our context, specifically in our era, because like every one of these rings just speak so much to, I think, our modern society. You know, the chase for riches, the chase for fame, the chase for sex, the chase for, pleasure. And I think, again, I'm trying not to be too preachy with this, but like Hollywood defines like a lot of that, right? You got drugs, you got women, you got sex scandals, you got, praise, you got every element of this. And I like the thing you said earlier, Cord, about like, all the plastic surgery and stuff starts to really, drive that point home, especially with those new Emperor's Children models. Like, skin stretched back, and I think Slaanesh is definitely the god of modern Western civilization for sure.
Yeah, very much.
Anyways,
so.
that was my soapbox.
Liar in the chat is just embodying a demonette right now and is just trying to get me to lay down in this realm and just there, you're fine. Everybody loves you. And at the last moment, you realize when everybody's yelling, "I love you," they're actually just saying olive juice, and then your world dies.
Shatter.
Like, no.
No.
There's a thing in here too. There's a thing in the beginning of this one. It talks about the fear of failure. This one feels very perfectionistic and kind of, a hero once exalted begins to fear the fleeting nature of fame, the possibility of failure, and the crushing weight of a reputation left in tatters. It speaks a little bit to cancel culture, speaks a little bit to not living up to, your parents' expectations, your friends' expectations, society's expectations. There's a lot of that here, like you were saying, Jordan. Or Christian, sorry. I just knocked you down in the praise. Yeah, sorry about that.
Damn. We'll edit that out. We can't let that tarnish his good reputation.
Illusion just
Jordan, not Christian.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I do think the next one will speak more to what you're talking about that fear of failure more so.
Okay.
But definitely the unrealistic expectation. Let's say that, like, again, social media example, just because it's easy, right? Like, you see other people's lives are so perfect online, and like, but it's a very manicured and culture and like edited version of real life, right? But that's what everyone's chasing, right? Like this unrealistic, unattainable expectation of life, what your life ought to look like. But I digress.
Once again, if you're not connecting with this episode, you're lying to yourself. We'll get you.
Yeah, man.
We'll get you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, if you don't think any of these are gonna get you, you've already been got, man.
Yeah,
like,
you didn't even enter the fucking palace.
Yeah,
you're in the parking lot. You're in the parking lot.
Fuck. Yeah.
All right, let's get into the excess of achievement. The corpse god, in his infinite wisdom and ambition, sought to create soldiers of unmatched devotion, ready to lay down their lives in his name. His plan was perfect. They would be warriors of impossible heroism, but humble enough to know their victories were not their own, but his. Yet, in his arrogance, he failed. The Space Marines, mighty as they were, could not escape the temptation of pride, the whispers of rebellion fed by the Dark Prince, urging them to think themselves as gods. What followed was a cataclysmic fall, and the fifth circle of Slaanesh's domain awaited those who strayed. This circle is a forest of intoxicating beauty. Gone, I'm gone. There. I was already gone before, but there it is. I live in the desert. I fucking hate the desert. Give me a forest. I'm gone. Yeah. Where towering
lost. Yeah. He's just running naked out there in the woods. So happy.
The circle is a forest of intoxicating beauty, where towering trees stand like sentinels, their shadows casting an air of serene reflection. The air is thick with a strange, alluring silence that presses upon the mind, urging introspection. Hidden glades beckon with pools of crystal clear water, inviting the traveler to sit and reflect. These serene pools promise clarity, but what they offer is the delicious, slow burn of temptation. As the mind wanders, it is coaxed into fantasies of grandeur, visions of victories beyond imagination, conquests of entire star systems, the sweet fruits of power and glory that have eluded so many. Horace would definitely not make it past this one. Yet, as the traveler succumbs to these seductive dreams, the beauty turns foul, the undergrowth shifts, twisting into thorny tendrils that curl around the limbs. Vines coil around the neck, tightening with suffocating pressure as the mind becomes lost in a haze of self-grandeur. The waters of the pool begin to mirror the traveler's deepest fears, visions of failure, of defeat at the hands of enemies, of missed opportunities. the very specter of shame itself. They open their eyes, but it is too late. The visions consume them, and their last breath is stolen away by the crushing embrace of their own pride and ambition. Only a rare few can break free from the seductive pull of their own fantasies. These few, battered and broken by the weight of their desires, rise from the pools empty and spent. The intoxicating dreams no longer captivate them, and they stagger forward towards the circle, the sixth and final circle, the gateway to the palace of pleasure. Here, the dark prince watches with gleeful satisfaction, for every victory of the mind, every fleeting moment of defiance, only brings them one step closer to their inevitable fall into the depths of indulgence and ruin. Indulgence and ruin. Dio. There it is. Yeah.
Second fragrance.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. I think you were spot on, Christian. That seems definitely more like that fear of failure vibe too.
Yeah. And there's like two kinds. There's like the self-imposed one, like, man, I really need to pass this SAT, or I need to get into law school. Like, I expect this of me. And then there's the expectation, like you were talking about, like, man, I'm going to disappoint my family, my parents. People are going to look down on me. But yeah, like excessive achievement. I think it's easy. Like, we're going through this and we're like, oh, where would you fall? And where would you fall? Like, we're just mortals, right? Like, let's say we're all in an Imperial Guard regiment and somehow found ourselves at the entrance of Slaanesh's palace, all just getting picked off one by one.
Oh yeah.
But even
Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. This is the worst fucking version of it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. But for someone who's like demigod like in Astartes, their minds have been hardened. They don't care anything for riches. They don't care anything for pleasure. They, bodily pleasure. Like, they have a duty. They, their minds are honed. But then they get here, and I think this is what they're most vulnerable to. Is like, as the warriors that they are, like, they have expectations of themselves as Astartes, expectations that the Imperium has of them, and that I think would be where a lot of Space Marines might break, or anyone who has that kind of like hardened mind, that really devout mind. Yeah, spot
on. Well, even the sustenance one, there's people who've done like, how many calories does a Space Marine have to eat to kind of function? Like, they take in like Shaq and they add 200 pounds on him, or however they come up with that math. But it's a lot of fucking food, man. In and of itself is just excessive.
Sure, but they're not doing it for delight. And often they talk about how like Space Marine food is probably just like a gruel, like a really nutrient-packed gruel that has no real flavor. They're not eating for the sensation of eating. They're eating because they literally need to fuel their bodies, which is, again, like counters to Slaanesh.
Fair. It's like what you said. So Christian, the Space Marine, like, just looking for that fuel, doesn't need the taste.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just fuel it.
I just need pure mass to get my body moving.
I'm tacking on mass.
Yeah. Cultivating mass.
Cultivate, that's it.
Yeah. Right. And then this one will be moving into the next ring. And I think this one also speaks court to that way back when we were talking about like the caress of flesh, like the caressing part of like
comfort.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Maybe slothfulness.
Okay.
So let's enter the circle, the sixth circle, excess of repose. In the grimdark expanse of the 41st millennium, life is a fleeting struggle, a constant fight against a universe that cares little for mercy. Mortals, be they human or alien, find it each day a brutal reminder of their fragility. For those fortunate enough to survive the grinding wars and ceaseless strife, there's only the looming shadow of death. Even the Aeldari, ancient and wise, are not spared from the relentless cycle, always haunted by the fear of their souls falling into the grasp of she who thirsts. Yet even amidst such unyielding hardship, the need of rest for a moment of pleasure beckons. As the weary traveler stumbles toward the last of Slaanesh's rings, the whispers of languishing souls promise the ultimate release, peace. The trials of the previous circles have tested even the strongest, and yet here, in the final respite, lies a seductive promise of eternal tranquility. All torment, all struggle, gone. What awaits is a vision of paradise, so intoxicating that it would crush the will of the most resolute. A beach bathed in golden sunlight, with soft sands caressing the body and gentle breeze lulling the mind. The very air hums with a melody of pure, indulgent bliss, designed to draw the weary into the arms of surrender. Cherubic figures with faces calm and serene approach to remove burdens, caressing tired limbs with soothing hands that seem to erase every trace of effort and pain. The heavy weight of the world fades, leaving only the sensation of soft, pampered indulgence. Each touch a promise that peace has finally arrived, that all conflict and hardship are distant memories, never to return. This is not a fleeting dream, but a promise of eternal comfort, beckoning the traveler deeper into the arms of Slaanesh's seduction. But to those with iron will, the dream can be shattered. The ghosts of pleasure retreat, their serene faces twisting in fear as the traveler forces her mind back to reality. The remnants of battle, the displaced armor and scattered belongings, are gathered with Herculean effort. The journey is not over, and ahead lies the palace of Slaanesh, the final and most dangerous temptation of all. Only those with the strength to endure the ultimate test can step through its doors, where true indulgence and ruin await. For in the world of excess, pleasure, and corruption, only the strongest can resist the call to surrender forever.
The way they ordered these, with this one being the last one before you get to the Palace of Pleasure, it's like you've gone through all of this, and then somebody's like, would you like to take a little break?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it was really hard getting here, wasn't it? Yeah. Hey, why don't you just sit down? Yeah.
Cup of water for your weary legs, just that little bit of comfort and like care now would get probably everyone else who hasn't fallen already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, I think this is also where things like sloth come in. Liar in the chat says this one gets me. Some days bed is just so warm and comfy, safe and caring. It's a trap that will get me fired or make me miss important appointments. I'll just stay in bed comfy instead of hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think everyone to some degree struggles with this. Like, yeah, just a little more sleep. Just, don't worry about it. Tomorrow's problems are just tomorrow's problems. Just take a rest.
Yeah. I'll call out. I don't need to work today. Yeah.
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 And even that lifting of burdens is a big one too. And like, especially more so for like people who are actually living with real struggles. Like our society is not even that burdened by struggle compared to say like, the worries of having to survive every day in like a war zone or something. But even the burdens being lifted of your life is like, don't worry about it. Just relax for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, is good in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
But when your whole life becomes just that, and we're back to the sex ring again from all this.
Grim says, "Here, sit down. ... on my face."
Just went back a couple of circles.
This isn't the God of moderation, like you said, Christian. Like and that would be like the funny God. Like, well, how much wine have you had? Oh, just one glass. That's what I need. Okay. Well, what'd you eat today? Peanut butter jelly sandwich and some chips, and that's it. And that's how you just feed this God, is just by doing everything in just like moderation. Yeah.
This I'm reminded of when I was like, I don't know, like 14 or whatever, when I first started playing StarCraft 1. And man, like I would get home from school, boot it up, and like next thing I knew, it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I literally did not feel that time go. Like, just you forget everything, all the burdens of life just gone, and then like
just
next
killing Zerg.
Yeah,
nice.
Mark, take us home.
Yep.
Okay, the last little bit that we got here is the Palace of Pleasure, where Slaanesh himself resides. After surviving the temptations and perils of the Six Circles, one might assume that the Palace of Pleasure, the very seat of Slaanesh, would be an impenetrable fortress. Surely demonettes would stand guard, their eyes ever watchful, and fiends would prowl the corridors ready to rip apart any who dared approach. thick walls of obsidian and impenetrable defenses would protect the heart of the demon prince's domain, ensuring only the worthy could enter. Yet, such things are unnecessary in the realm of excess. Slaanesh, a being of unimaginable perfection, has no need for physical barriers. The finest alabaster statues and perfectly sculpted trees in place of legions, their beauty alone disarming any who might trespass. The invaders, be they lone space marines or entire legions, find themselves lost in contemplation, confused by the apparent lack of defense. But then the air stills, and the divine, harmonious singing of unseen choirs fill the ears, as if though their very souls are being caressed. It is at this moment that the Dark Prince emerges from his palace, and with one confident stride towards them, he smiles. Resistance is futile, for in the presence of perfection, all who stand before him are undone. What happens to those who fall prey to Slaanesh's irresistible allure is a question that has sparked endless speculation. None who have set foot on the grounds of the Palace of Pleasure have ever returned, their fates sealed in mystery. Scholars have long debated that what the palace looks like. Some claim it is a humble abode, made all the more magnificent by the presence of the Dark Prince himself, while others whisper of opulent, sprawling citadel that stretches beyond the eye's reach. One thing is certain, whatever form it takes, it is undoubtedly magnificent, a fitting reflection of the godly occupant. Some say the palace is filled with life, an endless hedonistic paradise where decadence and pleasure are played out eternally. Others believe is a solitary haven for Slaanesh alone, a place untouched by any but the god of excess. In either case, the palace is a realm of indulgence without equal, where the statues of those who succumb to Slaanesh's perfect charm capture the moment of eternal bliss. In this place, there is only pleasure, obsession, and the deepest forms of desire. It is the true seat of power for Slaanesh, where the Lord of Pleasure reigns and where nothing but the pursuit of perfection and ecstasy exists. Very, very cool final spot there.
Mhm.
We don't know if it looks like a humble little spot or if it's an opulent castle. Like I kind of even picture like maybe there's nothing there at all, even just Slaanesh. Like there is no such thing as pure perfection. Even Slaanesh can't have that, so there's just nothing there except him.
Yeah.
It could be anything in this little kind of center spot.
Leaves it up to the imagination, which is exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're at 2.5 hours, and that's typically where we kind of draw it. Things we didn't get to this episode, I think, are
Hold
pretty.
on. You're really going to cut it short on an episode about excess? This episode should be 6 hours.
Well, okay. Join my
No,
personal
we do
live
not
stream
feed
afterward.
Slaanesh. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
We're not doing it.
No. Yeah, exactly. Things we missed this episode was the rivalry. Slaanesh doesn't like Khorne. Slaanesh doesn't like Nurgle. Slaanesh kind of tolerates Chinch, but also, they're gods. They're all fighting all the time. They don't like each other. The Slaanesh legions, we're going to do an episode on them. So any demon princes, demons and stuff, I know we talked a little bit about them in the other episodes, but like I said, they deserve their own full episode. So we're going to skip past that here. And same with the cults of Slaanesh. So where the legions of excess are like the demons, the cults of Slaanesh are the mortals. And that's an episode where we're talking about like the different gifts, the different blessings. We'll talk about Emperor's Children again. Like maybe we'll talk about some Xenos. What does a Imperial Night House dedicated to Slaanesh look like? They'll be kind of in that cult of Slaanesh episode. So there's definitely more kind of chaos and Slaanesh and Chaos Gods topics to come. But for now, I think that's where we'll leave it.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that episode? I know I was definitely excited to read about his realm. Like it's cool to think about how their realms are just extensions of themselves. They're not like an actual realm. They didn't find a realm and then conquer it and then make it their home. It's like it's them. Like, and this clearly shows how and why it's Slaanesh, the realm.
Yeah, paints the picture perfectly.
Yeah.
Fits Fits really well and very cool in that adventurous way of like, where are you getting caught in this? And I don't know. It's good. Again, if you've reached this point and you're like, wow, this just doesn't describe me at all in any way, you're lying. You're lying.
Yeah. That you're like the most fucking like milk toast person ever. You don't get like
Yeah.
any
Just
happiness.
The most boring, but
Yeah.
also like doesn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ned Flanders does not like pray to Slaanesh. Ned
Yeah,
Flanders is not a Slaaneshi guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little blue balled by this episode. I'm not gonna lie, but that's probably the way it was meant to be. It feels like unfinished, incomplete.
You finish on your own time, Christian.
But yeah, honestly, I think this is my favorite realm for sure compared to all the other gods. Like, Korn is very simplistic. Nurgle's Garden is probably my second favorite, just like thematically. I love like a garden is the perfect description of like life and death, both end. But this one and Nurgle's Garden are my two favorite one.
Yeah.
Fuzz says this episode's edged Christian. So that's nice. I'm glad we could do that for you. Oh man. Well, let's do the end of notes and we'll wrap this up. Like I kind of briefly mentioned, the next episode is going to be Gork and Mork, and we still have Malice and the Dark King to talk about. So yeah, we'll still kind of go on this Chaos God theory. If you like Lorehammer, come check out Lorehammer Listener Lore. I do homebrew lore. I read out what you guys submit, so come check that out. It's a lot of fun, and we've been really enjoying it over there.
Yeah. And if you guys want to hear more from me, please check out the first season of the Funkatronic Rex podcast. It is a podcast that I created and produced and recorded and all that stuff. We talk about board games, card games, Warhammer, tabletop RPGs, all that stuff. Super fun. The Funkatronic Rex podcast. And I do want to just give a brief shout out to our buddy Logan. He just dropped his first video on YouTube with Hydra Thoughts. So he's talking conspiracies, cryptids, and like other fun stuff there. So he just did his first video on YouTube. So go like, subscribe, check it out, all that with Hydra Thoughts.
Cool.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to get him back on. Maybe next week we'll get him back on and do like a 40K cryptid type episode or something like that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. It's a special thing for his kind of launch. So yeah, definitely go check out Hydra Thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm doing something a little more experimental with the new podcast project. We're doing Pokélore. So if you like Pokemon, we're doing deep dives. Just getting off the ground here. So hopefully we'll be migrating to Spotify and stuff. It's just available on YouTube right now. But yeah.
You are feeding Slaanesh. How many podcasts are you at there, homie?
3. But I need more. It's not going to end here.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd always need more. I'm thinking of starting a new one too. I'm not going to say what, but I'm thinking
it's addictive, isn't it?
Do it. Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah. I figure if Joe Rogan can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, go check out Pokélore. That will be amusing to see what the hell you're up to over there. So very cool. Final shout out to our Patreon members, our new members. Super thankful for you guys donating. We got Terzanecki, we got Josh, Ian, we got Sparing Hades 536. So thank you guys all so much. And yeah, that's incredible. You give some money and you make us all very happy. So thank you so much.
Obviously, no time for call-ins on this episode, but also probably for the best with an episode like this. We'll play it safe.
The chat was having me worried. Yeah. Every call-in's just like shirtless, like and covered in oil, and you're just like, I can't do this anymore.
So cool. Good.
All right, everyone. That was a fun episode, and we'll see you all in the next one. Adios.
See you guys.